Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to another live stream with me, 320 Sim Pilot. And today, really exciting, we are taking the PMDG Douglas DC-6A for a flight from Yellowknife up to Norman Wales. We're going to do the Valley Run, finally. We've talked about it so much on the channel, and I can't believe the luck of having PMDG bring their DC-6 into Microsoft Flight Simulator, and also to have somebody make the great livery for it straight away, and we have these airports. So yeah, I couldn't get the rights to the theme tune music, sadly, for the stream, but I'm sure you could all imagine it in your head. So yeah, it's really good. I know Buffalo have had some DC-6s. They weren't painted, as far as I'm aware, in this green color, the Buffalo green, but I think they did have a DC-6, but it was a swing tail sort of version. But yeah, this is a fantastic livery off flightsim.to, of course. Thank you all for joining us today. Really, really exciting. And so many of you have come along. Thank you all. But there's a lot of things about today. Of course, we're starting slightly later, but this is a relatively simple plane to set up. And I want to reassure those of you who really, really want to fly this, but have been put off by the complexity of the flight deck. Like I was very nervous before I first downloaded it. But you'll see that actually this is a great add-on that really gives you the power to you feel like you're flying it properly, even though you haven't had to do much, and you don't need to know a whole lot about the aircraft systems if you don't want to, but they do all work if you then want to take the time to learn it. It's up to you. It also feels and flies so differently to what you'll be used to with jet and general aviation airplanes. You don't get these sort of straight wing, low wing, piston engine airliners at these sorts of weights anymore. This is a 30-40 ton aircraft. It's a heavy thing. For context, it's you're getting into the sort of as heavy as a BAE 146 or even heavier, and then you load it up with cargo, and yeah, it's a real beast. So we're parked up here somewhere near the Buffalo Airways hangar, and we will jump into the chat, of course, and say hello. As you can see, I've got all of the tow bar, the GPU, which is that little unit sitting down underneath the nose. We've got the mechanic stands, because as we all know from the TV series Ice Pilots, for those of you who haven't seen Ice Pilots, that's why we're using Buffalo Airways. They're very famous for the TV series, as they fly around in sort of minus 40 degrees Celsius using piston engine World War II era aircraft. So it's a very exciting series. I do recommend it, but yeah, it's finished now, but there's been quite a few series. But Buffalo Airways is still going, and they spend a lot of time fixing engines. That's the one thing you learn about operating these airplanes from the show. So 310 Fly, good to see you. Dougal McTavish, thanks for coming along. I'm glad you've been looking forward to it. Hopefully I can deliver, but there's a very real chance I won't be able to. Some things that I struggle with, starting the engines. I've never tried it in this cold weather either. I've set it to be minus 20 degrees Celsius. I thought we'd do it the proper way with some snow on the ground, of course. I didn't want to be flying around in the green. It didn't seem to make much sense, given how the show was. So yeah, we are in July though, so we have the sunlight, because I'll need that. But yeah, so fantastic news, Dougal. Dougal's in the all clear. That is amazing. So glad to hear it, Dougal, and thanks for coming along. And yeah, amazing. Really, really, really great to hear that. So yeah, I hope you're continuing to do well. Chick Point, good to see you. And Ed Haslam, I hope you're doing well. John Padfield, Captain Gio, I hope you're doing well. Pilot Peely, good to see you. Pilot Peely recently started streaming on his own channel, so do head over there if you'd like to see it. Particularly general aviation, it seems, is Pilot Peely's theme of streaming. So yeah, just starting the streaming career. I think it was yesterday. Yeah. So welcome, Pilot Peely, and congratulations on your stream. Captain Gio, good to see you. If I didn't say already, and Dave McKee, hope you're doing very well. And what else? Tom Corwin, good to see you. Jonathan Gunthauser, thanks for coming along. And Joseph Mitchell, J Bay, Andy H1302, thanks for coming and moderating along with Dougal. Lauren V, I hope you're doing well. Yeah, we have snow in summer. We had to do the snow. As I said, I really wanted to get the view. And I have done a little cheeky flight around, and it did look fantastic. Thanks this way for your subscription. I hope you enjoyed the video. Aviation 24, good to see you. Certified Dynamite, I hope you're doing well as well. Yeah, there is a bit of pressure. Van Raj, Heather Van der Veen, great to see you guys. And the Only Millhouse, good to see you as well. And James Cooper, Swiss Pilot, Leo. Yeah, will we play Airplanes by David Usher? Yeah, I wanted to, but it's a quick way to get my channel copyrighted, I'd imagine. But yeah, right. So many people in chat. I do apologise. Dana J, good to see you. Ronald. Vikas, great to see you here as well. And yeah, I think that's everyone. Nice West, good to see you. And I can only apologise if I've missed anyone. But yes, it is a bit too clean, I do agree. Right, so what is the DC-6? Obviously, this was designed in the 40s and used in World War II, but it came quite late in the process. But it was well, this is the DC-6A, a slightly stretched version of the original DC-6. So it's not technically a pure DC-6. It's the DC-6A, and this is makes it the cargo variant. You also get the DC-6B, which is the passenger variant in the package from PMDG. It's got 4 massive grade engines, which are going to be piston engines. So we've not done much piston engine flying except in general aviation on the channel. So they are radial style piston engines like this. So the cylinders, as you can actually see them tucked away in there. I haven't actually tried this before. There you go. So they're sat there all around, loads and loads of cylinders. Each of these cylinders has its piston, it has magnetos, it has spark plugs, and magnetos are up there, but it has spark plugs. It's got the valves and everything. So lots and lots and lots of moving parts. Way more complex in some respects than a jet engine. But it was the technology at the time, and yeah, you get 4 of them, so even if one fails, you got lots of options. James Cooper, thanks so much. The pair's already made an appearance, and the £5 donation, really appreciate it, James. Thank you. I hope you enjoy the stream, and thanks for coming along today, and thanks very much for your support. I hope you're doing very well, and yeah, great to see you here again. Sean, good to see you as well. Can you zoom out completely? Yes, we can. Robert says, which way have you got your TCA configured for this aircraft? So my TCA is configured with engine 1 and 2 on the left left thrust lever, and engine 3 and 4 on the right thrust lever. So I can only control them side by side, not all 4 engines individually. Having said that, I've also removed the reverser detent, which you can do by just locking out the little reverser switches. So I'm going to go without that because there's a different way of doing reverse in this aircraft, which is quite strange, but you'll see what I mean in flight. Ollie Nat says, will I be able to land an A320N into Norman Wells? I haven't had time to look. Yes, you will. Yeah, so I will be on VATSIM. This is all on VATSIM. There you go. There's that bloom off those chrome surfaces. Just gorgeous. Yeah. It's a great treat, this airplane. It really fits Microsoft Flight Simulator so well. Right, anyway, that's enough zooming around in the drone. I managed 7 minutes of just ogling the airplane. So yeah, lots and lots of cargo space. So Buffalo mainly use DC-4s, which you and I probably wouldn't know the difference that easily, or I certainly wouldn't, but more keen spotters certainly would. This is obviously slightly bigger. There's that view. Imagine that view as a passenger. Reassuring in some ways to see. When you look out the window and all you can see is engines, that's usually got to be quite a comforting feeling. Same thing in the BA-146. You can't actually see any anything but engines, so you know you're in hopefully safe hands. Right, let's jump into the flight deck and take a look at that. I always get that wrong. Right, here we go. So I haven't done anything except I brought the iPad up. So when you load up this airplane for the first time, you have the iPad sat down there, and you'll just be sitting in a completely sort of blank airplane like this. And then I opened up the doors and so on using the tablet, which you just drag out like that. While we're here, let's get some fresh air in. It's a little bit too stuffy in here. I'm an ice pilot. I don't want to be sitting in the warm. I want minus 20, 25 degrees. Let's bring this screen up. So we can actually change the brightness because that's a little bit too dim. There we go. And on here we've got several tabs: ramp manager, fuel load, AFE, which is the artificial flight engineer, maintenance. Engines are all in relatively good health. It does sort of save your oil and wear and so on. And engine stress visualizer, which is very clever. We'll talk about that when we're in flight. So yeah, we'll chat about more of this. But I've got realistic engine damage, realistic start, realistic carb icing. Now that could bite me in a second because I've never started this from cold and dark, but here we go. Vikas, thank you so much for your 100 rupee donation. Really appreciate it. Vikas said, wait, I thought streamers don't promote other streamers, but growing the community and spreading the knowledge great show anyways. Thanks, Vikas. Do they not? I don't know. I don't know what streamers normally do, but there we go. But thanks for the 100 rupee donation. Really appreciate it, Vikas. Thanks for coming along today. I hope you're doing well. So Lauren B says DC-4 is smaller and not pressurized. There you go, not pressurized. So that would make the difference. But yeah, thank you, Vikas, for your donation, and thank you again to James, of course. Kai, good to see you, Kai. Kai says, hello, how is everyone? How are you this standard UK weather? Yeah, the UK has gone back to being rainy, unbelievably. So yeah, we're back with that. But yeah, and he says, shame there's no model matching for Microsoft. I'd have joined in a DC-3. Yeah, I know. It's a bit of a shame. You'd have thought we could get that sorted fairly soon, but it's taking its time. Thank you for those subscriptions. Danny, thanks so much, Danny, for your $2 donation. Danny says, gosh, that snow is bright. Yeah, it is. This is a really nice day to go flying. Flying over the snow is lovely as well. It's quite a rare treat in the UK, but I suppose it's not so rare for these guys over in northern Canada and the Northwest Territories as they are. So here's the flight deck. It's all pretty confusing at first, but it does get easier. For a start, I spent a long time wondering why there's all these levers, but these are actually all throttles, so I could move them all like that. So yeah, no great shakes there. You'll notice slightly, they seem to sit slightly out of line. There we go. somewhere there. Maybe I need to change my sensitivity. Vikas, thank you for your 40 rupee donation. Vikas said, I do stream too, hoping to fly with you if possible. There you go. So Vikas, also a streamer. So yeah, thanks for coming, Vikas, and thanks for that donation. Really appreciate it. Yeah, well, you can hop on. Lots of people fly along on these flights. Although I think we're alone today. We are, aside from the floating, there's a few lorries over there going up and down out of that hangar. So that's a new bit for me. Look at this cargo. This is freeware scenery from flightsim.to. So flight deck is really nicely modelled. The cabin is a little bit basic in the passenger variant, but otherwise not too bad. So there's your steps up and in. You got all your books, and you come and sit down. Very cramped in some respects of this flight deck. I do like this. You can actually move this seat up and out of the way if you want. Yeah, it's all done. PMDG, don't miss a trick. So yeah, it looks really nice. As I said in my sort of first impressions, just some of these textures up here, I feel like that. Just because everything looks so good, that slightly lets it down a tiny bit, I think. But you don't look up there, so what difference does it make, I suppose? You're mostly looking down here. So let's load on some cargo and fuel. So this is sadly all in pounds, so I'm going to try and do my conversion as best I can. Andy says, I hope you got a Herman Nelson Frostfighter plugged in, or it's going to be cold in there. Yeah, that's it. So in Ice Pilots, they have two. They have a Frostfighter and a Herman Nelson. And the Herman Nelson is apparently the go-to heater, which they have to use. They have to keep those engines sitting out there. They can't leave them sitting in the cold like this because the oil goes solid and they can't turn them over. So they actually have to leave them electrically heated overnight, and the blankets and all sorts, which looks like hard work. I mean, incredible the stuff they get up to. Trying to keep those airplanes serviceable. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. So I want to have at least 10,200 pounds of fuel. I'm going to take 16,600 pounds of fuel, and I'm hoping that'll be enough. I don't see why it wouldn't. I did a little flight plan on SimBrief. I just don't know how accurate it is. We're going to load on some cargo as well. So current zero fuel weight, empty weight 52. Where's our zero fuel weight? Oh, it's not even on there. I was basically going to try and take a couple of tons of fuel. So let's load on some fuel, which I can just scroll on like this. So we'll just stick on main cargo hold. That's lower. Oh, maybe let's take the lower one down a bit. Let's load up the main cargo. I don't think it changes anything in the visual model though. And let me just check with my flight plan what I want the takeoff weight to be. 38,705. So we're going to take off about 40 tons. So that's about 85,000 pounds. Okay, so we can fit a bit more on the front. Maybe we go to 80. There we go. 80,000 pounds. Max gross weight 107. Good. So that's the fuel and the cargo loaded on. And that's it. It's dead easy. I mean, I don't think there's anything else I need to do. You can usually see it slightly tilting if you change those suddenly in large amounts. Lauren B says you need enough fuel to make all 3 stops and then make it back to Yellowknife in the Valley Run. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the Valley Run is quite a long day out, I think, for the Buffalo Airways cruise. But we're only doing a very short part of it. We're just going to go on the shortest leg. Well, I'm not sure if this is the shortest leg, but we're certainly going to do the one that I found the easiest, up to Norman Wells, which has a VOR, which is something I'm more used to. John Padfield says, yes, I was supposed to have my first flying lesson on Wednesday, but not looking good. Oh, no. Yeah, the weather's not being that helpful. Hopefully it's improves just enough. You never know. Dan J says, do passenger pilots fly aircraft to maintenance facilities, or are they maintenance pilots? No, they'll get normal. Airlines won't train other pilots. They'll just use the normal pilots. Yeah, typically, to take them away from maintenance and so on. Get a taxi back home. Matteo, good to see you. Thanks for coming along. I hope you're doing well. Hubert says, haven't had the chance yet to look at DC-6, so looking forward to the flight. Excellent. Yeah, it's really great. But you'll see what if it's for you or not as we go through. So it's all turned off. We're going to go through the cockpit when we get going. So what I'm going to do is just show you the easy way to do it to start off with. And I say to start off with, I don't know much more than that. So what we need to do is go to our artificial flight engineer, and we can just run the before start checks. So hopefully, I'll turn up the audio a bit. See these switches changing? And what they do, all on their own, is they'll move all the switches. It's quite surreal. It's a really...
Tested. Oil coolers and cow flaps. Auto in position. Fuel and fluids. Checked. Pressurization. Set.
I hope you guys can hear that.
Manifold and duct pressure.
Let me know how the audio is.
Radios.
Does the radios turn on? Look at that. It's really creepy in some ways.
Doors and hatches.
He's even going to close the door. There it comes. You know, you don't have to do anything. It's amazing.
Closed. Door warning lights. Out. Gear pins. Removed. 3 on board. Seat belts and pedals. Adjusted.
That's our seatbelts, I assume. No passengers on this one. Throttle's going to idle.
Propellers. Forward and 3.
He says forward.
Start checks complete.
So he says forward 3 on the propellers. So the next step is start engines. You heard that. I think that means propeller pitch lever to forward and then synchronize to 3. I think that's what it's talking about. So yeah, I'm sort of slowly learning the checklist just by listening to them do it so many times. It's not as hard as you think. It basically, this is an airplane with batteries or ground power outside, and it's got 4 starter motors. It's got piston engines, you know, and that's it. It's just a big version of a Cessna. If you can start a Cessna, hopefully you'll be able to start this. The pressurization is another aspect to it, which I haven't tried much. But yes, the artificial flight engineer is really, really slick. That's how you can do it, you know. You just click that and it runs through it, and it's great because they say everything out loud. You really feel involved in the process. So you start to, you know what's going on around you. You know what they're doing. They're turning on and off pumps and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, PMDG added that because they said that the way this airplane, or when this airplane was flown, and this is just from the PMDG tutorial videos, but yeah, they said that, you know, typically the captain wouldn't come out and fiddle around with all the checks. The captain would get on when the plane's all set and ready to go. So you can see now it is ready to go. They've got rid of all the doors and everything outside, closed everything up. So we're going to fire up those engines. There's no controller here, obviously. We're in Yellowknife. Yeah, no, it's all quiet. So we will do it. So yeah, this flight about 1 hour 45, Matteo. So we'll get going fairly shortly. It won't take us long to get into the air. James Cooper says, thanks again for the radio tip. Makes VATSIM so much better. Have you got yours working on this aircraft? Yes, mine is working on this aircraft. So as long as I start up this airplane slowly, my Logitech radio panel works just fine. Let me just check that now. Having said that, yep, I've got control over the radio panel, which is great news. So this has been added in later, of course. The original radio panels are all down here, but this is no longer in use, as you can imagine. So they've put it there because that's where it is. But yeah, some of these textures, just some, look a little bit empty. Just a little bit. Yeah, when you look closely sort of down there. Again, though, sort of the stuff up here looks really, really nice. Those windscreens look great as well. So let us look for the next step. Now, this panel I haven't experimented with much, or this one. Let's close up the window. You can just drag that across, and then you press this, and it will seal shut. Right. Actually, before we start engines, let's come up with a, let's check our weight and come up with some takeoff performance, because you can do all that from the flight deck, which is nice and easy. So we're taking off at a gross weight of 80,100 pounds. Now, I forget the number where we have to do a wet takeoff, which a wet takeoff that isn't a wet runway. It's talking about adding, I think, water into the engines to give them denser air and make them a bit more, give a bit more thrust. I don't think we need to do a wet takeoff. I've totally forgotten. If someone remembers, I'm sure someone watching has managed that. Yeah, Jonathan Gonzalez, it feels overwhelming, but it's not. So I haven't had to touch any of the panels yet because I just got the engineer to do it. So here's the performance. It's just hidden up here. Water and ethanol. There you go. Thanks, Dougal. 80,000 pounds is it? So that's going to be us then. Yeah, we're going to need to do a wet takeoff. 86,000, 86. So we'll do a dry. Okay, perfect, because that's easier after more of those. So then we go up here. We pick our gross weight, which is, as I said, 80,000 pounds. So we're relatively light. Yeah, it can go up quite heavy, but the problem is we don't have a long flight, so we're not going to burn much fuel. So that gives us a V1 of at sea level to 2,000 feet, 83 knots. Now, how it works out a V1 without any runway distance information, I don't know. So I'm not entirely sure what this V1 means, because in the 320, the V1 is related to the runway length, and if the runway's long, then it's just the same as rotate. If the runway's short, then it will be limited. So, you know, on a really short runway, it could be quite different. Anyway, moving along, V2 is 101, so that's our safety speed. And that's pretty much where I'm going to rotate. So yeah, we can rotate at a relatively leisurely 101 knots. I mean, no problem at all. Stall speed is about 90 knots. So that's it. And then there's a landing performance. So it's nice to have that there just to give you a bit of an idea. So yeah, all quite straightforward. How much of that ethanol is the passenger supplies, Lauren V? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you can feed your supply in. JB says, when the DC-6 originally came out, it only had 2 pilots, but they added a flight engineer after a crash to help overcome the added complexity of 4 engines. There you go. And the 4 engines are a real management problem. And I say problem in the nicest way. I mean, that's where a lot of the work goes in this aircraft. Okay, 21 minutes in. Let's start up the engines because I said this would be quick and I'm about to make it really slow. We'll talk about this all as we're going. It's just so exciting. It's just great fun. I've never had a detailed simulation of an aircraft quite like this. I know they've been out there. I've just never had one. Now, I just heard some clunking. I don't like hearing that. A bit creepy. Anyway, the fuel's done. The performance is done. So next step is let's start up those engines. There's no one around, so we'll just go for it. And let me go on to guard. Actually, not guard. It's Unicom. So I'll prove to you my radio panel works. 1228. There it is. Oh, it's 805. Now this is the problem. The Logitech radio panel doesn't have the extra digits. So this is box 2 over here. Andy, thanks so much for a $10 donation. Really appreciate it. And he says, just stopped by to drop a like. Looking forward to watching the stream after work. Thanks, Andy. See you after work. Thanks for coming along. And yeah, enjoy the stream when you get to it. And really, really appreciate the donation. That's very kind. Thanks for supporting the channel. Yeah, really, really appreciate it. I hope you're doing very well. And I hope work goes smoothly for you. James said, you pulled the engine 1 red button. That's what the clunk was. Did I really? This one, the feather button? Thank you very much. I mean, how did you guys spot this? Well, that can't have been good. I hope that hasn't messed up. Well, we'll find out. We'll find out if we can start that engine or not. Oh, dear. Deary, deary. That's not good. Oh, he's at the wrong airport now. Dear. Right. There aren't any runway lengths for the DC-6 either long enough or not. Yeah, that's what it feels like. What we will do is let's just put in a bit of a flight plan. So we're going to click that in. And we're going to start with C. I could have done this earlier if I was thinking ahead. C. There's only 2 waypoints, and this is the first one, so don't worry, this won't take long. And luckily, they're all relatively easy to get to. C, Y, Z, F. Enter, Yellowknife. And then we go to C, Y, V, Q. Norman Wells. So we're just going to have this GPS in there as a backup. There it is. And thank you very much. Let's go back to a map page. How do I get to the map page? CQ or Vorlock? Or yes, no. Well, normally you can just hold clear. There we go. Right, there it is. Okay. Engine start time. So, piston engines. How do you start piston engines? Well, they're pretty straightforward. And let me just check. Jonathan Gunthausen. Jonathan, thanks so much for your $10 donation. Sorry, I've missed that one. Jonathan said, when you hear the YouTube notifications and you see that 320 Sim Pilot is online, you stop everything and launch the stream. Keep going with the awesome streams you gave us. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Really appreciate it. So sorry I missed your message. But thanks so much for that donation. Really, very kind. And thanks for coming along. And thanks for joining us in the stream. And thanks for donating towards the channel. Really, really appreciate it. Yeah, I hope you're doing very well. And thanks again to Andy, of course. Right, let's get it fired up. I've been talking too long. So, piston engines. What do we need to start a piston engine? Well, we need to have magnetos turned on. We need to have fuel going into the engine. We need to turn it over, and we need the starter motor, and that's it. Once we've ignited it, the magnetos can take over. So it's all in this overhead panel. We're going to start with engine number 3. It seems to default to that. So the fuel booster pump is on low. That means so we've got fuel going into that engine as we need it. The other thing you need to do, which it doesn't do automatically, is we need to go down here. These are the mixture levers, big M on them. You lift it up and then click it up again until it says auto rich. Seems to work for me. So now we've got fuel definitely on for that engine. So just like starting any piston engine so far, So fuel pump on, mixtures on, good. And this is not procedure, of course. I don't know how to fly a DC-6. I'm just making this up, but this is what I've managed to do. And so far, it's mostly worked. Touch wood. Right, engine start selector to number 3. So this is which engine are we going to run the starter motor on. Then magnetos need to be on. So I'm going to put them to both, because obviously if they're off, it won't ignite. It won't become self-sustaining. Next, what I'm going to do is press start and the safety together. You can just click one. They squeeze together, and that will turn the engine over using the starter motor. The engine turns, and the engineer will count out how many turns it's done. When it's done enough, then you can put the boost and prime pump on. I'm not sure if they're pumps. What does it say? Boost? No, I don't know, but apparently it adds in loads of fuel and sparks and so on to help the engine just actually catch and ignite. I did receive it, Jonathan. Thanks so much. It didn't, since I didn't see it appear live. No, I didn't. I don't think I said it. So let's refresh. There's Jonathan's donation. So thank you very much for that. So let's get it going. So we're going to start with number 3. So take a good look out, make sure it's clear. It's definitely all clear. We've got that ground power unit. We are running on the ground power. You can actually see here, the little switch is set to ground power. So squeeze together and let's listen for that engineer.
3, 6, 9, 12.
Boost and prime. There's number 3 RPM rising. And then over here, I want to see oil pressure. There it is in the registering range. So that's good. That's a good start on number 3. One top tip, don't do anything until these automatically go back to neutral. I've been trying to start the engines too quickly and it makes a mess. So there we go. Now I don't know which engine would be next, but I'm going to go for number 2 because it feels appropriate. And that's it. We have one engine. It's not too difficult. Just takes a little bit of care, and you can see it sort of chugging away there. So we'll repeat the process. So let's select engine number 2. So I'm going to put the magnetos on for both for number 2. I'm going to put the selector on number 2. I'm going to put the fuel pump on for number 2. And I'm going to put the mixture to auto rich for number 2. So it's got fuel, it's got magnetos. We're going to turn it over. So let's turn it over. Oh, it should be 3, 4, 2, 1. Oh dear.
6, 9, 12.
And that didn't work. I've had this happen before. What have I done wrong? That was number 2. That was number 2. That's on number 2. Nope. It's not happy. Well, while I'm here, I'm going to turn all the fuel boost pumps on. That was engine 1. That's why. So I'm going to turn all the mixtures on. I knew this would happen eventually on the stream. Alright, let's try that one again.
3,
Thanks for the subscriptions. Bethany, Tom, CJL. I hope you're all doing very well. And thanks for coming along.
12.
There's 12. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. That's 2. That's on 2. That's on low. It was just sort of cranking over. I've had this happen before. Let's try number 4. I knew this would happen. We did so well. We did the first one, you know, and you think you got the first one. You think, what more can you do? Definitely got all the mixtures on.
9, 12.
There's 12. Okay, number 4's come to life. That's good news. Realistic engine start is on, yeah. Does that mean we have to do it in the right order or it won't work? So, there we go. Number 4, up and running. Oil pressure, looking good. We don't want to leave it running at high RPM, but apparently below 1,000's all good. And there they are. Lovely. They just great effects running at these low RPMs. You can see the cowling sort of jiggling. Right, here we go. You may not be doing anything wrong. Realistic engine start adds a little randomness to emulate the real world. Do not wait to 12. Boost after 9 and prime just when you start saying 12. Okay, good tip. Thanks very much. Let's give it a go. So we go for engine number 2. Everything's on.
3, 6, 9, 12.
Boost and prime. That's number 2. Yes. Has it caught? I think it has. There we go. 2. Oil pressure. Excellent. You'll see that the cylinder head temperature on number 4 is slightly cooler. It's gone up a bit on number 3, which has been running longer, and now number 2 is nice and cold. They've simulated everything. It's amazing. I absolutely love it. And you'll see later all the things we can do. There you go. I just heard those switches click back to neutral. So finally then, engine number 1. It's time. Domingo Da Vinci says, I no longer feel safe in this thing. But it's funny, piston aircrafts can be like this. You start them up, and they're even single engine piston aircraft, you spend ages trying to start them, and then actually it's not so easy to start them, but then they're very reliable when they're going. But there we go. So the engine counted, we've got them all going. That's 4 engines. We don't need that GPU anymore, but I don't need to get rid of it myself. But there we go. Fantastic. So now, after start sort of stuff, so these go off, you could turn the start selector off. There's loads of things you can do, but I'm not going to do it because I'm going to just get the engineer to do it just to show you how simple this can be. AFE please, after start.
Start selected boost pumps.
So start selector went off,
And off.
boost pumps are off.
Battery switch.
Battery switch can go to plane because it's currently on ground.
Generators and inverters. Checked and on.
Generators are on, not sure where those switches are.
Armed. Ground power. Removed. Off to start checks complete.
There we go. They've got rid of the ground power for us. And we've lost engine number 1. What did we do wrong? So you can see when it's sitting at about 30 manifold pressure, that's a sign that it's actually just not running. As you can see, they are 0 RPM. Interesting. Let's try number 1 again. That sounds a bit slower as well, which isn't reassuring.
9, 12.
Oh, it's lit, unbelievably. Let's give it a bit of RPM. No, it's not taking. It's not taking. What are we doing wrong? Is this because I pressed this thing earlier? Oh, it's even pulled. What's going on? Why is that pulling? Dear. Thanks, Lessa. I don't understand at what point
6,
I'm doing that.
9, 12.
Good spot there, guys. Oh, please work. I must be dragging that mouse over. Click spots randomly activate when panning around. Okay, right. I'm going to need to be really careful of that. Hopefully that doesn't affect the performance of the engine long term in the flight. Let's jump back in our seat before we click it again. We're done with the overhead panel now. There we go. Right, that's more satisfying. Got all the engines going. Got nothing going on with the ground, so we can press B, so set our altimeter, about 600 feet. We're going to climb up to flight level 120 for this flight. We're going to take off and head direct over. What I am going to do is just tune the VOR, so we're going to head initially from the YZF, which is Yellowknife's VOR, 1155, so I'm going to tune that on my radio panel. And if I look over here, just check, there it is, 1155. And the initial course, we're going to take off and we're going to fly from the Yellowknife, obviously, and we're going to go on a course of 286. So I can set my OBS to a course 286. 27. There it is, 286. So that's the plan. That's where we're going to head over. And now we just need to work out which runway we're going from. Now I've got fair weather. I can see the windsock over there. So I'm going to take off from this runway just in front of us. Yeah, snow-covered runway. So we're going to taxi out and go left. Shortest taxi. And then we can just take off pointing straight at it. I think that should be absolutely fine. Or certainly we'll have a headwind. But yeah, thanks for your help with that. It was, again, the CO2 thing. So I don't know what's going on with that. I need to be really, really careful. Very interesting. So that's the after start. Next is before takeoff. But we don't need that yet. Let's taxi. So we can release the parking brake. This does work with the Thrustmaster TCA add-on set, which is great news. So that's released. And now give those engines a bit of a rev, and away we go. What I am going to do is put this drone camera. Which view would you guys like? A nice wing view like that? Give it a bit of a rev. And you see the way the propellers changed the texture, and the cowlings vibrate at different rates. It's just glorious. This is a big airplane. Let's hope we don't clip that fuel truck. And you'll see, as I taxi, the that sort of spinning effect on the propellers will just sort of change. I'll rev it up a bit and they'll go more solid, one by one as well, as they all reach the RPMs at their own moment. Just love it. In the flight deck as well, something I quite like, you can lean over and look at your engine out there. So we're going to go left down here, head out for a takeoff. This is the Buffalo Airways from the TV series Ice Pilots, Leicester. Yep. Make sure the oil temps are over 40. Okay, yeah, we'll give the engines a bit of time. Probably should do a run-up in these temperatures. John did San Diego to Seattle. Excellent. It's very easy to drive this airplane around on the ground. It's got great nose wheel steering. Probably built for rougher airstrips than we're used to these days. So it's got that big chunky nose wheel, which is really good. And you can just look at that. No problem. It's very maneuverable. It does run out of steam if you don't keep the engine spooled up. Another nice detail they added was, I can't remember what they called it in the PMDG videos, but basically with propeller aircraft there's sort of a resonance, and you may remember resonance has actually caused problems. A bridge collapsed once for it, where it sort of harmonized at the wrong frequency, so the wind blowing over the bridge actually caused it to resonate and vibrate until it eventually ripped itself in pieces. Anyway, the same thing happens in piston aircraft because there's so much vibration going on. So if you spool up the engines, which I can do now, and let's come to a stop and just a little bit of a spool up just to help warm up that oil. And as I come through those low RPMs, we'll hit resonance and that instrument panel will just go mad. There it goes. And the gauges down here are vibrating. Look at that. Shaking around. That's great fun. So yeah, you would obviously not keep the engines here for any prolonged period of time. And then as we get more RPM on, it'll stabilize. And then we'll idle it again. That's great. So funnily enough, the Airbus has the same. There is a keep out zone on the N2 in some of the Airbus engines, which has the same thing where it will actually vibrate, or it's bad for the engine, so you have to stay out of it. But because it's got FADEC, what you can do is the FADEC control will simply automatically adjust it outside of that range, even if you put the thrust levers there. Yeah, we shouldn't tell the passengers before takeoff, says Domingo Da Vinci. Absolutely. And it will damage the engines too. There you go. Thanks, JB. Harmonization. There you go. Thanks very much. Harmonics. Yeah. Bethany says you're the second streamer I watched today flying Buffalo. Oh, there you go. I didn't know anyone else was. I promise. I put this one up 2 days ago, which is unusually early for me. But there we go. You left fuel pump 3 on. I've no idea if that's terrible. Says the only Millhouse. Well, they're all going to come on for takeoff anyway. But good spot. Yeah. Number 1 is on. The others are off, actually, I think. The fuel, anyway, those boost pumps. But what we'll do now is we'll run the before takeoffs.
Boost pumps.
So they're going to run those. Boost pump's going to come on now to low again.
Low.
And you'll see that
Fuel selector and crossfeed.
there's a fuel selector.
Crossfeed
The great thing is, even though I accidentally left this in the on position and the others were off, it automatically puts them in the right place. So it doesn't just trigger a change, it triggers the correct action on that switch. It's amazing. I really haven't seen anything like it before to be this powerful. So the flaps are going out now. That's that yellow lever there. They're very slow flaps. We're going to taxi out to the runway while our crew does this.
Flaps set 20. Windows and turbine.
Windows definitely closed. There's that panel vibrating. Love that. It's such a good effect.
Controls.
Evening, Victor Tango. Thanks for coming and moderating.
Free. Detonator. On.
Peter heat's on. That's a good sign.
Reach and cowl flaps. Reach unlocked. Set. Transponder. On.
Transponder on.
Landing lights.
Right, parking brake set. Landing lights are on. Just going to look at our oil temperatures.
Extended and on.
Cylinder head temperatures are a little bit low.
Checks complete.
There's before takeoff checks complete. So the next thing we're going to do is, you can see water pressure there if we were doing a wet takeoff, but we're not. Next one will be takeoff, and you can choose dry or wet, and then the crew will adjust the engine throttles and everything as required and turn on all the pumps as needed. It's very clever. So what we can see is the oil temperature here. It's actually really low on the engine 1. The others are all okay. So I'm just going to give engine 1 a little run. See if I can just help warm it up. I don't know if there's a way to heat it up otherwise. It's just because we started later and the others sat there at idle. Doing well, Victor Tango. Thanks for coming along, and hope you're doing very well as well. I'm not sure the AFE sensed anti-ice. Better check it, says Ronald. We won't need anti-ice for this one, as long as we've got pitot heat. But even that, we're not in humidity, so I suppose maybe on the runway they'd turn on the prop anti-ice. I'm not entirely sure. Again, that would be a DC-6 procedure. There's more than my knowledge. Love it. So we're just going to sit here getting in the way of the Airbus that doesn't need anything. Oh, we've got 2 people flying along. Excellent news. I assume they're flying along, otherwise I'm going to be annoying somebody very much. So you'll notice the cowl flaps are open. These are obviously those flaps around the engines. That's these ones around here. So you see they're wide open. Makes it look a bit of a flower. That's to help draw more air through those cylinders. But you don't want it to get too cold in there. Everything about these engines is designed to cool it down, but when you're on the ground there's not much airflow over them, there's just the prop wash, so you have them open. And you'll notice that even though we've done the before takeoff checklist, they won't be closed until we're about to actually go, because it's just, you don't want that closed while it's sitting on the ground not moving, or they'll overheat very, very quickly. Thanks for those subscriptions to Jorge and Yasu and CJL, if I didn't say so already. Okay, is everyone ready then? We are finally going to get this beast into the air. We've got plenty of fuel. You've got all sort of main tanks and aux tanks. You'll notice the main tank's sitting there nicely with 2,000 pounds, so that's all good. Loads of fuel tanks. How's our oil temperature? Or we could run the carburetor heats as well, actually. Look, number 1 is up at 60, so that's all good. We're ready to go. So let's let everyone know what we're doing. Yellowknife traffic, Buffalo 282, taking off and departing to the northwest. I should have known the runway, but we'll see it when we go on the runway. Clear on the approach. Let's head out there. Pitot heat is on. I heard them say it was on. Got the carb heat up here. Prop the ice, so we could turn that on for a little bit, I suppose. But I'm just nervous of doing anything to mess up the engineer's hard work. Is that harmonising again? So I'm going to bring it onto the runway, bring it to a complete stop, and then we'll go. Airbus flight of 2, caution traffic, antique holding short, exactly. And there's some big bounces as you go onto this runway. I'm not sure if that's realistic. You can hear those brakes squeak when I use them. That's quite fun. That's a bit of a fast turn for a slippery runway like this. Right. So, this is it. I'm now giving control of the throttles to my engineer. They're going to set 30 inches of manifold pressure. RPM is not very useful to us at this point. We're looking at manifold pressure more. Now, I don't know why there's such a big difference between 3 and 4. Again, they're all assigned to the same thing. But luckily, even if you've got that difference, there's through the harmonizing range, you'll see the engineer move all of them into the right place. So there's 30 inches, which funnily enough is about what it sits at when they're all completely off. Flight controls are working. I'll talk about that in a second. Cowl flaps are reduced in, and now you can see that they're retracting. And now he's going to full power. I'm going to release the brakes. Don't want to sit still anymore. We need to get air going through that. Flight controls aren't locked. Again, the engineers deal with that, but yeah, easy to think that they are, and I'll talk about that. Off we go then. We're taking off. Valley run. A much more pleasant time of day to do it. There's full power, and remember we're rotating just over 100 knots, so it won't take us long to get there. Not much of a rotation to do. We just need to let the airplane sort of climb away on its own, basically. Just gotta convince it off the ground. So 101, there we go. Just a slight pullback, and that's all I'm going to do, and just hold it there. It's climbing away nicely. Give it a bit more of a pull, but not going all the way up to 15 degrees. Gears coming up. They've done that for us. And away we go. Just glorious. I absolutely love flying this thing. So unlike jets, if I keep putting that nose up now, it won't accelerate. It will just lose speed, and you can get yourself into some sticky situations. I have done already. So you'll hear them doing bits and bobs now, the engineer. They'll move the flaps as we accelerate, and they'll set climb thrust very shortly. Now they're going to set METO, which is maximum except for takeoff. So you have takeoff thrust, and then you have a slightly lower thrust, which is sort of like, I guess it's like MCT, maximum continuous thrust in the Airbus. Keep that nose down. They haven't brought the flaps up yet, have they? Or have they? They have. I missed it because I wasn't listening. As you accelerate, they bring them in on their own. So that's good. So we can keep accelerating. So let's keep the nose down, because we've just had a large thrust reduction, so we don't want to suddenly pull back on the power. And we need to turn all the way around. No, we don't. We need to turn to the right and head up to our VOR. Sorry, head away. We're going to head away from the VOR on the radial we've set, which is 286. So I'm going to head 300 now and intercept that radial. So this is all manually flying. After takeoff checks complete, there you go. There's that view. You see so much on the TV show. Absolutely love it. The flight plan is just based on VOR to VOR, basically a direct flight. This is not real weather. I snowy for the occasion, Victor Tango indeed. And that's us. Away we go. Very stable airplane. I absolutely, I love it. I've not done any. I've done a bit of pitch trimming, but I've left it alone. Look at that. So yeah, you don't need to worry if you're feeling intimidated by this airplane like I was. Once you get it and you get used to that artificial engineer, you have no trouble. We'll have to in future do this properly. We'll have to do a whole flight without that engineer. That'd be a good clickbaity sort of title, wouldn't it? If I could put in the title, stream without the AFE, because the chance of me getting an engine on would be quite small. Domingo Da Vinci says we have literally the same specs. Are you keeping most on high or ultra? Everything's on ultra, and then I've even turned up a few other things. So yeah, just ultra. But I only run at 1440p, and this is obviously a 1080p stream. John says, if you climbed at a similar rate to the Airbus, would you get to the rear of the drag curve quite quickly? Oh, immediately, yeah. You can see we're not even doing 1500 feet per minute. Totally respectable, but yeah, they don't climb at the same rate. I don't want to accelerate anymore, because if we go any faster than this, we'll find that we just barely, we're just getting loads of drag. The faster we go, the more drag we get. So I think around 160 knots is meant to be the sensible sort of climb speed. So this is pretty good. Passing up through 5,000 feet, we're getting up to 12,000. I feel like I need to do something else. The next setting is cruise. So they've automatically done the climb and the after takeoff and the climb powers. So next is going to be cruise power. Now this sort of white glare is the problem of flying in the snow, of course. You can see out the windows. It's hard to see what's going on up there. I did notice on the TV show it's always like this. It looks quite exhausting to fly like that. Right, that radio's off to the left. I've totally missed it. We're trying to get onto the 286. So I'm going to bring the nose left. We're going to get through these clouds, no problem. If our colleagues are in Airbuses, they're going to be overtaking us pretty quickly, if not already above and ahead of us. We will use the autopilot shortly. It's called the Cloudmaster for a reason. Throttles, one for the captain and one for the FO. C1 for one and C5s among others have 2 sets. Yeah, that's a good bit of knowledge. I didn't know that. I've never seen 2 sets. So when I saw this, I got really confused because I was thinking, well, what is that the prop levers over here? But why are they the same colour? Aren't these the prop levers? But it turns out these little red ones here are fuel selectors. Yeah, it's not laid out exactly as you'd expect, put it that way. So tracking 286 is coming in now. So we're going to do a bit of a right turn. But there is a really easy way to do the tracking. Just going to bring the nose around a little bit. We're pretty much on 286. So we're drifting towards it. So I'm guessing the wind is from the right in this case. So I'm going to point a little bit to the right. You would have actually calculated your heading. Look at that, 1500 feet per minute, no problem. It's doing really well here. Cockham says, I love painting of it. I'm buying this aircraft now. There you go. It's so suitable for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Yeah. And if anyone's worried, I don't think anyone is worried, but if you are still worried about the flight dynamics and the handling of aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator, if you fly this, you won't be anymore, because it's all down to the individual aircraft and how the developer adjusts it. Ground handling, that grippy nose wheel thing is a simulator thing for now, but yeah, this thing feels heavy. It does, and on approach and for landing it feels heavy as well. Because there's why there's separate levers for props on some aircraft, don't throttles need to do the same thing? Yeah. Oh, the propeller RPM, you can adjust the RPM. So the engineer here has set the RPM using this little prop lever, which sets the pitch. So he'll remove that, and it will make the propellers more coarse or more fine, and that's how you set your power. You make the propeller more coarse, particularly as you go higher. You can run at lower RPMs with the same amount of thrust by having a more coarse pitch. So the propeller turns less often per minute, but it pushes more air with each turn. So that's why we adjust that. But you'll get usually the best performance low down by having it at a higher RPM. It's like going into a higher gear on your car. So by setting the manifold pressure, that's a more reliable way of setting power. Or actually, this uses BMEP, but it sounds like they always just seem to refer to manifold. So 40, he said 40 and 2400, which is pretty much what he set. So yeah, we're doing all right. We're tracking along that radial now. Not sure. This doesn't seem very lined up. Oh, I see why. No, I've been reading it wrong. This isn't an HSI. No, I've set that course. This is literally just showing me my course. That's why. So I need to keep that nose right on the 286. Yeah, it's almost easy just to use the needle. There's 10,000 feet. I hope we're pressurizing. I haven't used the pressurization on this at all. I'll be curious to find out. Flight's 1 hour 45, Danny. It will get we'll make a bit more progress soon. I'm pretty impressed with the climb performance, to be honest. We wouldn't need to be pressurized at 12,000 feet. I don't know what they used to cruise at on ice pilots. It's the one thing that show needed was just a... I know no one would really be interested, but I know well, not no one. You lot and me, we would all be really interested in some of the details, like, well, how high are they cruising? How fast are they? What is the cylinder head temperature on the C-46? But yeah, they're not so based on that. RPM is how fast the propeller is. Well, that depends on the. Well, hold on, no, sorry. This is a piston airplane, so the propeller will be spinning at the same RPM as the engine because it's physically attached to the shaft of the engine. In a turboprop, they can be different. The propeller doesn't spin anywhere near as fast as obviously some of the turbines will in a turboprop, but that's a different thing. So in this aircraft, unless I'm mistaken, and I could be, the RPM is exactly the same. So we'll get to 12,000 feet. I don't think any of you have ever seen me fly without an autopilot up to 12,000 feet in these streams. Had to do it sometime. Fantastic noises as well. .12,000 feet. So, piston airplane. Attitude. So I'm going to lower the nose to level off. Then power. So I'm going to ask them for cruise power.
Set cruise power, please. Setting cruise power.
And then we need to trim. It's very sensitive in pitch. Very sluggish in roll. You'll notice I barely had to do anything with the roll. But yeah, it's easy to maneuver pitch-wise, which I think is quite common. This is not one of Paddy's, actually. Paddy has done an amazing livery for this, which is what we'll be using after this stream. From that then on, obviously, is going to be the Manta. There's the Manta retro livery, which it's incredible. And it looks so good on the DC-6. I have tried it out, but for this one, I wanted to make sure we did get the Valley run at least once done in a Buffalo livery. And this is an exceptionally good one. The artist, I'll let me find it on... It's on flightsim.to. I think there's two. But this one is superb. Okay. So there we go. We're basically trimmed out, although we're still slightly accelerating. You can tell they've set cruise power, so now we're down to 35 inches and 2200 RPM, something like that. So again, the great thing about that artificial engineer is you slowly learn what's going on. So I'm hands off, but let's engage the autopilot. So it's not an autopilot, as the PMDG tutorials will tell you very clearly. In fact, we have some custom views. Not custom, these are provided. First I'm going to turn on the gyro pilot, that's what it's called. I mean, I don't know why it's called a gyro pilot. I don't think it can't fly a specific heading. So we turn that on, and then I'm going to, it's going to fly level. It's going to fly level on everything. So let's now the system's powered on, I need to actually engage it. So this is the disconnect. This removes the clutches and the torque motors and whatever else it's got that it uses to drive the airplane. It removes them from the control. So now I'm going to click that on, and now it has control of the airplane. So you can see all it's doing is basically flying level. It's got level aileron input, level rudder. I'm surprised it does the rudder and elevator. Now I'm going to engage altitude control, and it will level off for us. He says, there we go. That's 12,300 feet level. And where it gets really good is we can actually, if we're in gyropilot, we can make it fly along a localizer. So if I go localizer, it should find its way onto that radial and just follow it along, which is incredible. So, and as you've seen in my preview video, if you've seen it, you can actually make it fly on ILS. It's a remarkable thing, this gyropilot. It's way ahead of its time. Or it feels like it anyway. I didn't expect it to be this good. Now, I might have been a bit far away from that radial. Maxim says you're going to use a Garmin. I've got the Garmin up there, but I haven't been using it. No, we don't need the Garmin. So down here then you can see that it's heading on quite a sharp intercept to intercept this radial. We're currently 36 miles away, so the DME is hidden down here, and actually you get a ground speed reading off the DME, which is quite good. This is a clever system. So yeah, so 36.4 miles out, 36.5, so quite a long way out. So that's why it's doing quite a harsh intercept. But now you see that we're reaching that radial, and it's just going to turn right onto it. I mean, it's amazing. So how do we get back down to 12,000 feet without disconnecting everything and starting again? But again, very simple. There's an autopilot climb glide wheel, don't know why it's called that, but all I have to do is move the mouse here, a little arrow, and I can click down. Then you'll see, would it show up? No, it doesn't seem to show up on this little gauge, but either way, if we look up here, oh, he says all this. Does this not work while we're in localizer mode? No, look, doesn't work. If I turn off altitude control, there we go. Right, so altitude control's off, and I'm going to put it back down into a descent. That's too much, actually. So let's trim the wheel back the other way. Just get a gradual descent. First so I'll hold. Thanks, Ronald. So you can still do this in localizer mode. Good, that's a relief. Do everything gently in this airplane, or you'll make your life really difficult. 100 feet to go. So I'm going to try and do a gentle level off here. So I'm just going to click. You can also scroll wheel. That was 2 little notches. Out control just keeps the altitude. There you go. Thanks, guys. Dylan says, I tried it in the sim before. Turning on altitude control for me climbs back to previous altitude again. Ooh, okay. Let's find out what happens. I'm going to try and level off first. Pilot Ray, thanks for coming. Okay, there's level-ish. So I'll go to 0. I want vertical speed of 0. Is that too much? That's too much. So 1 click the other way. And altitude, hold on. And there we go. We can enjoy the view. Let's take a look at our engine. Absolutely love doing that. Fantastic. Glorious, glorious, glorious. Not sure, Dylan. Yeah, not sure why. Nope, that seems to have... Well, let's just check. Has it actually done that? Have we level? Yeah, level nicely. So very happy with that. Yep, I mean, look at it. Landing lights are here. They're very straightforward. But the funny thing about these, so they're like the Airbus landing lights. They stick out into the airflow. And I think there's a speed limit, because when in the descent you'll hear the engineer, or the first officer, you'll hear them ask for it. And the response will be speed checked, and then they extend them. So maybe there is a speed limit. On the Airbus, we're quite lucky the landing lights have no speed limit, which is, I think they're amazing. But yeah, so you have to actually extend them manually. So you click extend, and then you can turn them on. So you have to drive the position. So it's quite a complex way of doing it. Hayden J. Robbins, thank you so much for your £6 donation. Really appreciate it. Hayden says, thanks for the superb stream as ever, 320 Sim Pilot. You're very welcome, Hayden. Really, really kind of you. Thanks for coming along, and thank you for donating towards the channel. Really, really appreciate it. Very kind. And I hope you're doing very well. I'm glad you're enjoying the stream as well. It's yeah, it's always hard using a new airplane. I mean, again, lots of you know, I've been talking about the backlog I've got in terms of streaming. So I was keen to get in the DC-6. Let's just take a step back. There it is. So we've got lots of panels, but a lot of this stuff on the overheads you've seen has just been used for starting. So the magnetos are all on both. This is emergency stuff, feathering the engine. That would be if the engine fails. We don't want those propellers to stay flat to the airflow, as it were. So you feather them where they go across the airflow, or they basically make less of a profile, and that way they won't spin. It's nearly crashed many airplanes, if it hasn't crashed airplanes, I'm sure it has, when they don't feather the propeller in time. It's really important. That's why it's here. The Dash 8 has big propellers, only 2 engines, but it has an auto feather system. So if it senses a failure, it will drive that propeller into the feathered position, which is, I'm not sure why it's called feather. I suppose because it sort of points into the airflow, but it stops it from being windmilled by the air rushing over it. £6 for the DC-6 fuel. Thank you very much, Hayden. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you. We've also got lots of light controls, of course. Some things I don't fully understand. Oh, here's the emergency lights. Emergency lights, no smoking. And there's the beacon on. Position flash. Steady. Let's have position and flash. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, so let's see if those lights worked. Not sure. It's a bit stunningly bright out there. Oh yeah, we have. Yeah, we've got that red nav light just coming on and off. You'll notice as well, it looks like it's ever so slightly nose down. Swept wing aircraft, sorry, I should say. They fly slightly nose up in the cruise, but this sort of straight wing means that it actually seems to fly, it looks like a tiny bit nose down, but I'm not sure if that's just an illusion. So yeah, overhead panel not so complicated, and this stuff's all to do with starting. Let's put that back to off. Again, I'm very nervous of fiddling with anything. You can call the camera crew. Not sure, I can't hear any noises. Here's master battery and generator, so the generators are all on. It's pretty straightforward. Emergency instrument power, I won't press that. Very risky playing with all these things. Then you come into this fuel panel basically, which has got all the quantities of the different fuel tanks. So they all look pretty reasonable. I'm not sure of the order which it drains, I'm afraid, but yeah, that you've got the alternate tanks, the main tanks, there's loads of tanks, unbelievable. Pitot and scoop heater ammeter selector, so I assume that's to display the ammeters, so we could have a look at the static ports. Yeah, Pitot and statics are drawing some amps, so that's a sign that the heater's working, I suppose. If it was broken, it would say 0. I'm imagining that's what that's for. So we're just checking the electrical load. John Padfield says, payday on Wednesday, got to buy this plane. Yeah, there was a little sale on, wasn't there? And I haven't done a full review. I just did the sort of the first look because it was too complicated for me to really work out the full review straight away. But I was pleased when I saw the price. Put it that way. I bought this. I wasn't sent this one. I get sent some airplanes. I'm very lucky, but not this one. So that is a very honest opinion on it. Although I always give my honest opinion on the reviews, either way. But yeah, hydraulic reservoir. That's water, I'm imagining, for the wet takeoff, so we need it. And here's those cowl flaps. So what we can do with the cowl flaps, just to prove how they work, and I haven't attempted superchargers yet, by the way. Let's take, what's our current wing view? Okay, so that's engines 1 and 2. So if I take engine 1, I can close its cowl flaps, and engine 2, I can fully open them. I'll do that separately, and you'll see now, here's engine 2 fully opening the cowl flaps, and engine 1 has gone totally sort of slick. And now, jump in. So what were you going to expect from that? Well, the engine with the closed cowl flaps should heat up. We're sort of letting less air through it now, drawing less air over those cylinders to cool them down. And of course engine 2 should cool down because we're letting more air over it. And that's not good. You don't want it too cold. You could shock the engines and all sorts. So if we look down here, cylinder head temperature, nice and stable on 3 and 4. A little bit cold perhaps on 4. And then now on 1 and 2, number 1 is getting hotter and hotter. It's about to go through 200. And engine 2 is dropping below 150. It's just great. It's all there. Control 2 gets you to this view, which gives you a slightly better view of these needles and so on. Thanks, Matsim. Yeah, if you are enjoying the video, do please hit the like button. Really appreciate it. Master Caution says you forgot to set cruise power using AFE. Your fuel burn will be high. I think we did set cruise power. I think we did. Anyway, now we've done that, I want to show you the next thing. Just make sure we are cruising. Oh, Brianni! Good to see you, Brianni. I hope you're doing very well. Thanks for coming along. Scoobering away in paradise, eh? Fantastic. Good to see you again, Brianni. Brianni's a big supporter of the channel, but has managed to find a paradise sort of job and is off doing that instead of watching my streams. Unbelievable. But thanks for coming along, Brianni. I hope you're doing very, very well. Yeah, so now I've done that to the engine. I go to the stress visualizer, and you can see here, cylinder head temperature. It's cold within icing range on number 2, and actually number 4. Number 4 is running cold. I don't know why. And number 1 isn't actually getting too hot, because if it was a normal sort of day, it would start to go amber. So this shows you the stress. So green is all good, obviously, and if it gets hot, it will go red. If it gets too cold, it can sort of go to this blue colour. So that's all modelled in there, and I've got it all in options. I've got realistic engine damage on because I want to let you guys laugh at me when I get it wrong, and I've managed to cause engine failures in this simulator so far in flight. So yeah, that's a great little thing from PMDG. They really added some amazing things here. I don't know if we'll be able to get that engine to go red. What's it got to? Yeah, it's going over 200 now. We'll see. I'm not sure why number 4 is so cold. So engine management. Let's close up number 4's cowl flap a notch. Get that temperature up a little bit. I don't know whether that's normal or not in the DC-6, whether you'd fiddle with them, but we've got them, so I have. Maxim says, can't do VOR to VOR on VATSIM. No, we're going VOR to VOR. I don't know. Can you not do that on VATSIM? I've done it before. Brianni says, hope you're super well. Finally a day off so I can watch part of the stream. Sadly, I can't donate from Krakow. Needed to check on that. A major like for now. Thanks, Brianni, for the like. And yeah, I hope you're doing very well out there. I'm so jealous. Amazing. Gabriel says, why I'm not hearing today. Airbus does this automatically. I know. Well, luckily, it doesn't expose itself because there's lots of the systems here. They're not even here. There's no heading bug that I can find. So that's my biggest gripe. I suppose, what else? There's no IRSs. There's no windshield heat, as far as I can tell anyway. So yeah, lots of things that don't need to be done automatically. Thanks, Roland, for your $6.94 donation. Really appreciate it. So Roland says, thanks for yet another great stream. You're very welcome, Roland. Thank you so much for your donation. Really kind. And yeah, I hope you're doing very well. Thanks for supporting the channel, and I'm glad you're enjoying the stream. Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it. You've been very generous. Master Caution, no problem at all. No, it's easy. It's easy. I do forget things, so it's great to have people looking out for it. Maximilian says, there seems to be an automatic feathering switch left of the ignition. Yep. Ed says, the light switches are all over the place. They are indeed. They are indeed. Helm says, this airplane also has auto feather. Very good. Yeah, so auto feather is a great system. It's really important to have it on these sorts of big propeller aircraft. Otherwise you're just asking for trouble. Yeah, the light switches are funny. There's some here. There's more up on the back panel, and they have loads of adjustment. Look at that. It takes ages to scroll through. So PMDG, in their wisdom, added ramp manager. You can just click that. We have white, red, flood, where just all the lights. Well, I'm not sure actually what floodlight does. Obviously, to see that, I'm going to need to adjust the time. So it's currently 12:10. Oh, because it's middle of summer, that's as dark as it's going to get. Something like that. So there you go. So that's the floodlight, which you might sit on in the cruise. This is the white light, which is probably my preference. So you've got sort of this red overhead panel, white down here. The problem with the red light is if we go to the red light, it gets very hard to read the red, see the red areas on some of these and see the red lights and so on. So you don't get that very often these days. Red lights in general aviation are quite common, but yeah. Hayden says, I guess we're in the hold as usual. No, you can all sit in the cargo bay, which is the entire aeroplane today, but sadly it's going to be freezing cold. Freezing cold, I'm afraid. Thank you for those subscriptions to James and Nay. Windshield heat is upper left, says Stephen Malcolm. Oh, there you go. So it is there. So this seems to be the sort of de-icing heating area. Cabin heater, airfoil heater, prop de-icer. Does that have any impact? Carburetor de-ice? Let's run a bit of carb de-ice. If you get carburetor de-icing, icing, you could find all your engines just clog up. They stop getting fuel and air, and then they'll shut down, which would not be good. Heater, fuel, and ignition selector. Oh, we can have a cabin heater. You guys would like that, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't. I hope PMDG do some guides on this, because this is yeah, this is where it gets really complex. Left wing heater and right wing heater. Let's try the right wing heater. See what happens. That's a temperature gauge. Goodness me, we don't even have a wing temperature gauge on the Airbus, certainly. Not sure if it's doing much. Oh, we got here. There's fuel pressure, cabin tail. So that's the cabin heater. So if I turn on the tail heater, because I'm imagining the cabin heater is not taking bleed air from the engines. It could either be exhaust air, not actually exhaust air, but you could run air over the exhaust pipes and then pump that into the cabin, and that would be heated up. Alternatively, you could have a separate heater, which is quite common in airplanes of this era. I do apologise. Thank you for all of those subscriptions, and thank you, Checkpoint, for your $4.36 donation. Really appreciate it. Checkpoint says, let's see if you can find the riddle to the amount of this donation. $4.36. So we've had 6 for DC-6. 4.36. Nope. Sorry, Checkpoint. But thanks so much. Really appreciate it. You'll have to enlighten me. I do apologise. Rich Sanger says, is there a reason for a red light? So red lights, yeah, they're not so harsh on the eyes. I think that's pretty much as far as that theory goes. Maybe it was better in military aircraft where you don't want a big bright white light shining out the windows, especially if there's people looking for you, but I have no idea if that's true. But yeah, these days it's very common to have white. Right, let's get it back to a more blinding sunshine day, which it was. We can turn those off. So yeah, so the switch is everywhere, but PMDG in their wisdom added that. And again, just a sign of how much they thought about this when they put it together. Now, I'm assuming this would actually be frozen over in if I'd not. All I've done is we're in July. Sorry, June. We're in June the 28th, but I've just I've set the snow depth high, and I did lower the temperature, so it's minus 30 on the ground. However, maybe it would show up as ice if I set it to the right time of year. I don't know. Mike says 4D, 3C, DC-6. Okay, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Mike Sheldon's onto it. Well done, Mike. Very good. Very perceptive. Dougal says we use red lights at C2. So why is it red, Dougal? Yeah, it's a good question. I assumed it was easier on the eyes and let you keep a bit more of your night vision when looking out the windows. But they just don't seem to worry about that as much these days in airliners, I suppose, where we fly, we don't land anywhere at night without runway lights and so on, so it's not such an issue. Maximilian says there seems to be an airfoil master heater switch which is currently off. Heater ignition selector. If I just turn everything on, what could go wrong? Prop the icer on. Carburetor, the icer on. Aha! There we go. That's it. Airfoil heater master. Now I wonder how much. And there's the temperature coming up, and you can see those wings. Look, the wings have gone above 0 now, so we needed to put that master on. I wonder how much fuel that uses, and I wonder what it heats up. I don't understand the de-icing on this airplane. Does it have de-icing along the leading edge of the wings? That would be incredible if it does. It very much sounds like it does. Great Scott says, I think carb de-ice is alcohol. The carb heat is on the front of the pedestal. Yes, you're absolutely right. Yep. I've drained my alcohol supply, which is not good. Shouldn't say that. Where is the fluid gauge for that? Water, oil, auxiliary oil, anti-icing fluid. It's down at 12. Just keep an eye on that. Yeah, sorry, absolutely right. I've totally forgot. That's crossfeed. Carb heat's here. Here we go. And we should see. Well, I don't know if we'll see any engine parameters change because I don't know if it's managing that itself. So number 2 and 3 have got carb heat on. Doesn't seem to make much difference. It does reduce your power slightly, carburetor heat, because it pumps in a bit of hot air, which is less dense. It seems like the engineer isn't happy with me doing that. No, it's turning it off for me. Thanks, guys. Yeah, cabin heater was gasoline fired. Okay, good. The wing temp gauge for icing boots. I mean, so the icing boots aren't heated, of course. The icing boots just inflate. So yeah, I'm curious. I'm very curious. Thanks all for your help. I knew you guys would know loads about this. John Pavel doesn't mind being in the cargo bay. Got my iron lamp to breathe and some uranium to keep me warm. Very good. James says, where do you set QNH and standard, or does the engineer do that? I don't think the engineer does it. I've left it on QNH, but you could just set it here. Altimeter setting. There's one there. There's one over there. Is that all? Where's is there no third? Maybe there's only 2 in this airplane. Oh, no, there we go. Not sure what that dial does. Start marker. Don't know what that is. We got, it looks like a vertical speed, an altimeter, which is set to 29902. I don't seem to have adjusted actually. So that one's on standard. Cabin diff is at 0, so we're not pressurizing. So that looks like the pressurization panel. So maybe in a minute we'll try and pressurize without causing terrible, terrible damage. Put the temperature up a bit. Warning, monitor loads to 350 amps maximum per generator. OAT above 0, 400 amps. Below 0. Okay. Oh, there's some more gauges. Manifold pressure gauge. Oh, it's so far beyond me. Yeah, Mike understands it. Mike says, flip switches randomly, what could possibly go wrong? Exactly. Isaac, good to see you. Thanks for coming along. I hope you're doing well. Ed says, I'm into astrophotography and I use red lights all the time as white light destroys your adaptation to the dark. There you go. Sounds reasonable. That altimeter measures cabin altitude. Aha. So this is the pressurization. Cabin pressure continuous. Cabin out main. So is it entirely manual pressurization? Is that what this is telling us? No, manual automatic. Cabin out, man control. So I put it to manual control and I want to decrease the cabin altitude. Oh, there it goes. So, okay. I don't know how it's doing that. There must be an outflow valve on the aircraft somewhere, I assume. And I'm not sure where it gets its air from. Where's it pumping that air in from? So if I do that, and then yeah, look, that altimeter lowers. Thank you guys. You always know what you're talking about. Well, I'm not going to sit here holding that. So we're currently at over 12,000 feet on the standard. It's actually a bit lower because it's a lower pressure setting, low QNH there. But you can do that manually. So why isn't the automatic working? What do I need to do to make it do it automatically? Certified Dynamite says, got to run to get some exercise. Hopefully I'll catch the landing. See you, Certified Dynamite. Yeah, you may well. Manual is out. Manual control of the outflow valve. Yeah, you just need to set cruise out on the lower left dial on that panel. Aha! So we started there. Okay, back to automatic then. And we're cruising at... If I scroll fast enough... 10, 11, 12. And now it's descending. Brilliant. God, the stuff I can get out of you guys, amazing. Thanks for your subscriptions to Lewinet. Questions? Mark, sorry if I've missed anyone. Dougal McTavish, thanks so much for your $27.77 donation. I do apologise, I'm sure that was not in dollars, that's what it shows up as. But thank you so much, Dougal. Really, really, really kind. Dougal says, just a small thank you for the amazingly chilled streams. Truly great content and atmosphere. That's really kind, Dougal. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Incredibly generous. I don't know what to say. Yeah, thank you. Really, really too kind. I hope you're doing very well, Dougal. And thanks for coming along. And thanks for being such a supporter and helper of the channel right from the start. Dougal contacted me to ask if I'd go on the Simwings page back way before we had 1,000 subscribers. So yeah, really, it was really nice, and it was nice to be included and have some advice and so on from someone who's been in the community. So yeah, thank you, Dougal. Thanks for that really kind donation. I hope you're doing very well. Yeah, don't say that's incredibly generous. I hope you're doing well. Thank you, Dougal, for especially for all your help on the channel. Right, we are still tracking on this radial, but you see we're 136 miles away. We're getting a bit far away now, so this is not going to be a great way to navigate, especially this low down. And we're going to go next to the VOR. Oh, I've lost it. I did write it out. 1127. So I'm going to tune 1127 on my radio panel. That's now on active. Now, what I should have probably done before I did that would be to put it into the equivalent of heading mode, which is going to be gyro pilot. There we go. So now it should just keep the wings level. And I'm going to leave it flying like this. And I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that at some point we pick up the other VOR, because it's a 368 mile leg. Oh goodness me, so it could be another 100 miles before we pick it up. The GPS is up there, but yeah, look, there you go. We're just sort of cruising along. It's worked this far, so I'm just going to keep it going. Now, what's going on with our engines? Have we managed to break an engine? No. In fact, all we've done is make engine 2 cold. So let's put 2 back to a sort of cruise setting. Put them all to cruise. We'll leave 4 slightly closed. I want 4's been running cold, and that seems to be working out okay. And now we'll see number 1 should drop down. No, sorry, number 1 should dropping a bit. Number 2 should rise. I think that's all looking pretty good. Vino 1999, good to see you. Thanks for coming. Dylan says the cold weather is preventing any failures. Yeah, hopefully. Corey says that's the carburetor temp. What is? Where's the carburetor temp? If I've been looking at the wrong thing. Again, wouldn't surprise me. John Padfield, thanks so much for your $6.49. Really appreciate it, John. John says, having an amazing time in the stream as always. Thanks for bringing us such great content. Really, no problem at all, John. Thank you so much for looking after us and donating. Yeah, really kind, John. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm glad you guys are enjoying this because it's rapidly descending into me looking at things and going, I wonder what that does. But I knew that was where this would end up. So, thanks so much, John. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the donation and thanks for supporting the channel. Brianni says, are you ever going to make those PADI exams questions? I'm going to be taking a look at them very soon. I promise you that. And he says at this stage, oh, there's a bit of a discussion about pressurization. Is there a problem? Should I have not pressurized? The only Millhouse says, I guess the AFE doesn't set the cruise altitude because they don't know what it is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it's fair enough. I mean, the AFE is incredible. What you can do, so I can't actually control the throttles at the moment. If I move my thrust levers, it doesn't do anything. So I'm moving them about, does nothing. What I can do is, if I want to take over the airplane fully, I can just press that off and then I'd have control of everything. Which wouldn't make much difference now, just give me control of the throttles. But this is a very, you know, the cruise setting is the cruise setting. I wouldn't want to change it just for my own amusement. So it's keeping us a good speed. Can't see my true airspeed, but I can see... no, I can't see my ground speed anymore. Let's change back to the VOR. What's our ground speed? 234 knots. Indicated of 210, 228. So not much different. About the same. That's what we're actually doing. We actually got a hold, a DME hold, which I don't know how to use. Oh, it says an op. There we go. Anyway. I suppose while we have this one still showing, we may as well continue to use it. Can't see why not. But it's become very... very insensitive, as it were. Because we're just so far away now. Sadly, Paul, no face reveal. That won't be happening, even at 45,000 subscribers. Lauren V says, I wish I could have asked my grandfather about these engines and pressurization systems. He was an engineer on military transports. Fantastic. Yeah, it's always the way, isn't it? Yeah. The things that they could have told us. Air coming in is from the superchargers, apparently, says Anthony. Ah, right. So, superchargers, some of you will know more than me, I'm sure. Superchargers are a way of, as you go higher, the air gets thinner and thinner. So we're trying to, these engines burn fuel mixed with air. They need air because they need the oxygen to burn, otherwise it doesn't work. As you go higher, the air gets thinner, so they can lose performance. Piston engines lose performance as they go higher. Jet engines they lose a bit of performance, but they gain in a lot of efficiency. Anyway, what's the point of all that? It's that superchargers are a way of compressing air, basically, before it goes into the engine. It's a little bit like a turbine. Okay, maybe I shouldn't say that. But basically, they spin, driven by the engine, and they whiz up, and then they compress air, and they basically pressurize the air going into the engine. And there's two ways. There's superchargers and turbochargers, so I may be getting them confused. But essentially, I think they both result in pushing the air into the engine so that you get more pressure and therefore more performance out of it, because more air goes into the engine, it can burn more fuel, and it can get more thrust, even if it would otherwise have lost out. That's my very loose understanding of it. Pilot PD, thank you so much. Pilot PD has donated $20. Really appreciate it, Pilot PD. Thanks so much. Pilot PD says, a small token of appreciation for the shout out on my first stream. Have watched you from very early on and learned so much about the Airbus. And with this DC-6, it now looks less scary. Thanks so much, Pilot P. That's really, really generous. Again, you're being far too generous. But yeah, really very kind. Thank you for the $20 donation. Thanks for supporting the channel. And yeah, I remember. So thanks for being here from so early on as well, Pilot PD. Really appreciate it. And it's great to see you. Yeah, like I say, I didn't get to stay for long at the stream yesterday, but it was great to see you starting out, and I'm sure you have great fun with it because it was all going swimmingly well. So yeah, as I said earlier, anyone who's interested in another little community of general aviation. I think general aviation flying it seems to be Pilot Piddy's main target at the moment anyway. But yeah, head over to Pilot Piddy's channel. But thank you so much for that donation, really appreciate it. Thanks for supporting us. Right, you guys are really chatty today, which is so I do apologise if I'm missing any messages. John says a spot of thunder here in the south of the UK. Oh dear, classic. Brianni says, since Victor Tango broke the dinner question, what's for dinner? I think pasta today. Yeah, I don't think I've said that before. Odin that says, any plans for 50,000 subs? 50,000 is the Concorde stream, but I have not even opened the PDFs that I've downloaded to read about it yet. Anthony says, supercharger is the same idea as turbocharger, but driven mechanically instead of by exhaust gas turbine. There you go. That solves it, so they do both the same thing. John Padfield says, I wonder what that does. Is going to be me all day on Wednesday, first in the flight in the PA28 and then in DC-6 in the sim. Excellent, enjoy that, John. James says, how do you imagine the stream schedule to be when real world flying is back in full swing? It's I really don't know. I think streaming, the videos take more time than the streams in some respects, if that makes sense. So there could be a difference. There will be a difference in the number of videos and streams, but in terms of the actual schedule, it will just depend. Sometimes there'll be a few less, sometimes probably back to normal. You won't even notice, I'm hoping. It just depends on the days, because, you know, I'll have to manage my rest obviously carefully as well. That'll be the difference. It'll mean that I can't do a stream because I'll be working the next day or something like that if I'm working early in the morning, because, you know, it's my responsibility to make sure I'm not staying up all night streaming. However, how far away that is, I really don't know, because again, we talked about this last time. In the UK, my goodness, yeah, there's not much flying. Rich Tango's off to dinner. Enjoy dinner. Rich Tango, apologies I missed that. That's probably ages ago. Pavel says, how's the FO? Pavel, the FO is absolutely fine, but she's not here today. No, she hasn't even popped in yet, so she's not taking much of an interest in the DC-6. I can definitely say that. Lauren Reed says we need a Mantis Supersonic Concorde livery. Yeah, that would be good, isn't it? That would be great. Oh, I hope I can learn that Concorde. I wish I had a engineer system like this. It's just such a joy. And it lets you get it into the air, even from cold and dark, which is quite satisfying. And then it lets you sort of learn it as it goes through. It's just, yeah, it's just such a good idea. I want to see it in everything now. Angie says, are you back flying the line? Occasionally, but very rarely. Very rarely. And those of you familiar with the situation in the UK, or even anyone in Europe, will know exactly why that is. I mean, I can't believe it. Well over a year later, a year and a half later. Checkpoints, not doing so well, not getting such nice food, oh dear. Dylan says, Concorde is like a kid trying to read college writing and say he understands if one wants to navigate the thing. Yeah, I mean, navigating with that INS in the Concorde is going to be quite something. Jaden says, greetings from Frankfurt. We've got thunderstorms and rain. Did a flight from Palma de Mallorca to Frankfurt in the 321 NEO. Loving the stream too. Excellent. Was that in real life, Jaden, or is that in Flight Simulator? But glad you're enjoying the stream. Thanks for coming along. Dougal's had grilled chicken with salad. Very healthy. This one has a 2-stage supercharge. Okay. Just be careful not to have ice on the carburetors if realistic icing is on. Yeah, hopefully we won't. I did run it. Checkpoint says, I must say the props in the background are a bit calming. DC-6 ASMR. Yeah, pretty much. Louis says, only if you're losing power in icing conditions, then you turn on the carb heaters, and if needed you can also activate the carb de-icers that shoot alcohol into the carbs to help. Right. So in the UK, the UK is a bit funny with piston aeroplanes. Obviously. obviously in the UK we had to do it slightly differently. So we are little bit renowned for using carb heat a lot, and more than most other countries do. Part of the reason for that is that we have such humid conditions here in the UK that the relative humidity can sit quite high quite easily, and the temperatures are never that hot, and you can get carburetor icing even on summer's day as long as the humidity is in the right place and so on. The carburetor icing is so to draw fuel into the engine with a carburetor. So these aren't fuel injected engines; they draw fuel in by a Venturi, which is no, I'm not really qualified to explain this stuff, but basically, if you have a sort of a tube of air's flowing through it, if you squeeze that tube so it's a bit thinner in the middle section, and you continue to blow air through it, that air gets squeezed together through that middle part, so it's going to increase in pressure, obviously. So what it has to do, because it's under higher pressure but there's lower pressure on the other side of it, that's a good way to explain it or not, it accelerates through the squeezed part. Basically it has to accelerate because it wants to try and balance out that pressure, so it accelerates through, and when you accelerate it, now have I got that wrong? You accelerate it, it reduces in pressure. If you reduce the pressure in a gas, it cools down. I know that much. So yeah, it accelerates and therefore reduces in pressure and cools down, and that means that if there's moisture in that air as it rushes through and cools down, it could condense or freeze. Now that could have been an awful explanation. Anyway, carburetor heat adds hot air in to make sure that melts off any ice, because if that ice builds up, what happens is it will block that airflow, and if there's no air going into the engine, guess what? Those cylinders won't fire because there's no air, the fuel won't ignite, and the engine shuts down. Yeah, Becky Davis, hello to you. Thanks for coming. Ollie, that is 60 miles out from Norman Wells. Can I get there a bit early? You are indeed, yeah. And he says, Concorde and Iris is great fun. You just have to think way ahead of the aircraft. Yeah, okay. So you mean we can't start the descent and then start thinking about the approach? Tom says, oh, should not leave the carb heat on. It needs to be cycled on and off. But I think we turned these ones off, which is the alcohol, we think. And yeah, these are all off down here. So that's all good. Another great thing about this is the fuel mixture. You can have mixture rich and auto lean. So who knows what auto lean does, and should I try it? Okay, we lost that VOR, or I've pressed something, because I did hear a click, which is never enjoyable. So let's swap over to the next VOR, and we're in range. Look at that. I think we're doing 640 knots, but otherwise we're in range. Now we're a bit off. We should be on the 286. Let's head over on localizer mode. It's going to take it a while. It's going to have to get the head of the needle going the other way. Very good though. Very nice system. Brianni says it's so hot. Going to check your stream from the pool. Don't do this to us, Brianni. Living in paradise, sitting by the pool and going scuba diving every day. Amazing. Amazing. Phil, good to see you, Phil. I hope you're doing well. Anthony says your explanation is spot on. Good. Phew, I got away with that one. That's always a relief. Create a partial vacuum, says Russell. Yeah, good, good. So the FO has joined us now. She's currently rolling around on the desk. Again, to the new viewers, the FO is my cat. Russell, good evening. Good to see you in a proper aeroplane, says Russell. Excellent. Excellent. Glad you're enjoying it. Right. And the FO's leaving. Yep, Kai pretty much sums it up. Right, okay, back to the flying after the interlude. So how far are we? Well, I can tell. We are 160 miles away. Anything else we need to do? Oh yeah, flap speed. So we can go first stage of flap 174 knots. So it's not actually marked on here. 160, 170, 80, 90. Yeah, 60, 74. So somewhere there. So quite fast for the first stage of flaps. And then 152 for the next one, which is presumably what this white arc here is. I'm not sure about that. We need to come up with our approach speeds and so on, which we can do here. So let's go fuel and load manager. Let's think about this, I suppose. In fact, we've got loads to talk about. I don't know why I'm sitting here. Oh no, John, PC just crashed. Oh dear. Kai says, my teachers always said my summaries were good. There you go, excellent. Pavel says, please convey greetings to your FO, from my FO to your FO. My FO is napping now, yeah. Will do. Thanks, Pavel. I'm sure she'll appreciate it. Sure it's been long enough for the FO to be promoted to SFO. Yeah, it could be. Senior First Officer Cat. White arc is where you can go full flaps as Louis. Okay, that would make sense. Yeah, it seems to be. Brianni says the one who's a Batman secret identity pilot and want to switch careers. Well, it's yeah, no, I do appreciate this, and I do love my job, of course. But I'd love to be scuba diving as well. Shame we can't do more careers in a lifetime, eh? Anthony says planes are getting full here in the States. Shortage of pilots. Good news. I hope that carries on around the rest of the world, please. The UK seems to be pretty far behind compared to everyone else. Chickpoint says, I wish I could get that sweet FO life, napping in the sun a bit and climb on the board every once in a while. Yep, that's it. Although I'm sure if you asked her, life is very stressful. Very stressful. Russell says, I've worked on Wasp radials. They're pretty complex and need lots of love. Yeah. The engines are the big part of this add-on. They're the big difference. Basically, you know, all your management and efforts go into it, which I can see why there's 3 pilots now for this aeroplane, just to look after them all. Love it, absolutely love it. Now this add-on is as good as it should have been. It delivers. It does deliver. Right. Anyway, let's stop ogling the airplane from the outside. We need to set up for the approach. And funnily enough, I haven't even got Navigraph started. That's unbelievable. So there is a VOR approach. I'm gonna attempt to fly it. I say attempt because of course this is not going to be quite as straightforward as it would be in an Airbus where I would press nav mode. So first of all, what wind have I got set up? Because there's no controllers, so we'll do whatever I feel like. And I am sitting here with a wind from the west, a light westerly wind. Both runways look quite spectacular. Oh, there is a slight disadvantage to the westerly one. Let me show you guys. So this is the westerly VOR, come from the DME arc. In fact, there is actually there's no star. That's the you basically join in on a DME arc, which is always a bit tricky from just sort of space like this. So yeah, they're not very complete procedures. They're clearly not designed for too much use, but this one's tempting to fly actually. Tempting to fly the easterly. Let's do that. We'll have a bit of turbulence from those hills, but there we go. Wind is from the right. Just like that, eh? Easy. No, we're not making much progress onto that radio, are we? So we want to be, we're 142 miles away. Fine. I want to be on the 286. Yeah, okay, no, it's going to drive over there. We had to go left, and that probably matches our GPS, and we've gone too far left now. I could cheat and just put it on it there. There we go. We're in localizer mode. I'll let it do that and just turn towards it now. Otherwise we'll be sitting here for a while, facing the wrong way. It's just going to add to the flight. See, as you get further north, they could be talking about grid navigation. Normal charts and so on might not be so useful. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'd love to go and do this, but I wouldn't love to go and do it. You know, well, this looks great fun. In the show when they're standing on the wings in -40, trying to de-ice them with a mop. That does look a little bit stressful. Jonathan Goodhauser, thanks so much for your $10 donation. Thank you, Jonathan. Really, really too kind. Jonathan says, going to eat, but as always, enjoyed your stream. Catch you next time. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Enjoy your dinner. We'll see you next time, and thank you so much for your very generous donations. I hope you're doing very well. Really, really appreciate it, Jonathan. 2 Point says, you'll never know if you'll get fed if you don't complain. The most stressful moment of the day. Yeah, exactly. If there's no complaining, the cat just doesn't know. Kai says, when life resumes to normal and you can stream as often, and you can't stream as often, can your FO be promoted to SFO and start streaming? All here's meow, but that would be very cute. Yeah, that would be good, wouldn't it? That would be nice. Gabriel says, out of curiosity, the fuel gauges for 2 engines, the scale of the gauge is a bit different, but the range is the same for all engines. Why is that? Makes it kind of difficult to read. So what have we got? Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, 45, 45, 45, 45. But this one's sitting at 10. I'm assuming it's to do with... So these are at 15. These are a bit lower. It'll be to do... It's not actually per engine. It's 4 fuel tanks. So you've got the main tanks, and then you've got these alternate tanks. I don't know why they're called alternate tanks, but that's what they are. So... they hold different amounts of fuel. You can see. In fact, look, even the main tank 2 and 3 actually hold slightly less fuel, 4,300. Is that right? Yeah, so they seem to hold slightly different amounts. So maybe it's a way to sort of synchronize the needles a bit to make it obvious if there's a fuel leak. But I don't know about that. I don't know. Good question. Very good question. Anyway, I'm falling behind again. Rock on, good to see you. Thanks for coming along. Eric says, really enjoying this. Have to catch up a bit later as I'll be AFK for a while, but thank you for such an excellent stream on a wonderful aircraft. You're very welcome, Eric. Glad you've been enjoying it. Phil says, the purchase price here in the US is on sale $54.99 instead of $59.99. Should I grab this DC-6 or just grab the 757 or 767 for a little more? Tricky question. I'm a big 757 fan. I think that was the last thing I flew, wasn't it, on the channel? But this is amazing. I mean, this is visually, this is obviously a different simulator, and it is stunning. Just got to think about what you actually get around to flying, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, this is an amazing add-on. There's no doubt about it. G-Betty says, I think PMDG said that some of the gauges aren't the same because on the real-life plane they used to model they had been replaced and didn't match. There you go. Yeah, this is based on a very specific aircraft. They said the last ever DC-6 off the production line this is based on, so it could be that's why. Maybe those two were replaced. Like you see that there's like a yellow fade on these ones, and this one's a bit newer. It just seems odd that they're symmetrical, and that does make me think that there's something else going on there, something intentional. But don't know. Anyway, yeah, the approach. What am I talking about? So I've set the weather up. We're going to make the approach onto this runway. So I'm going to pin that. Then we're going to land. That's a bit smaller than I remember. About 6,000 feet we'll have to do. Yeah, we're going to land here and then just come off wherever. We might use reverse. A lot of manual braking, obviously. So, pretty straightforward. Big problem is terrain off to the north, so we don't want to interfere with that. I pinned the wrong chart. That's the chart. That's what we're going to fly. So, Norman Wells VOR 112.7, which we've already got tuned and identified and in use. So that's what we're going to get to. So I'm basically going to head towards it, and then we're coming in from the west, so we're pointing straight west to get to it. Now, remember, although we're flying west, magnetic north isn't west from here. We're actually going off at this angle. It's really confusing, but yeah, we're pointing right at the airport. Don't worry about that. But I need to get my head around this because it's going to make this really difficult. We're not actually coming in from the west, although we are pointing on 270 because that's a magnetic thing. But the magnetic north pole is probably, well, it's not in the right place here. So the variation is massive. I don't know what it is. I don't have a chart for that. So we're coming in like this, and then we're going to get to within 15 miles and fly around this big arc and get out to Pemla. 2,600 feet. I'm going to try and stay level there. Send down to Norman at 6 miles, 1,600 feet. So I need to be really slow with some flap out here, coming along to Vodus, maybe even the gear down as well, I don't know. And then from 6 miles, gear fully configured, and we'll do, it's quite a steep approach, 3.65 degree descent. It doesn't give us any more information than that. It doesn't even give us altitude checks, to be honest. It's surprisingly sparse chart. So I'm going to hope we're visual. We need to be visual by 760 feet, which is pretty late actually. So we're optimistic. So that's it. Basically, we'll fly visual. We'll fly visually round roughly on 15-mile arc and then head in, start our descent at about 6 miles from 1,600 feet. I'm going to use the AFE to do a lot of that, but I'll have to configure the flaps myself. I found out after my first video, when I did that preview flight, I got a lot of comments saying you didn't land with full flap, and no, they're absolutely right. I used the AFE, but the AFE configured to 20 degrees of flap for the before landing, but I needed to put out the last bit, which I didn't realise. To be honest with you, I haven't noticed much difference landing full and 20 degrees, but I was landing on a massive runway in Athens, so it's going to be more important that we do have the right amount of flap for this one. Right, James Cooper, thanks so much, James, for your £10 donation. Really appreciate it, James. You've supported us so much. James says, another awesome, informative stream. Thank you. Here's a beer and a burger for tomorrow's match. Thanks so much, James. Really kind. Thanks so much for supporting the channel yet again. And I hope you're doing very well, and I hope you enjoy the football tomorrow. Yeah, I'll be enjoying that. Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it, James. Thanks so much. Ollie Nuts says Microsoft Flight Simulator graphics are just fabulous. I'm turning on to final. Enjoy final. Kai is landing into LFKC, doing the circles land 3-6. Excellent. Enjoy that. You're welcome, Gabriel. Savage H says SimPilot rudder pedals. Can you tell me? I use the Logitech rudder pedals. Logitech Saytech rudder pedals. They're very good. Oh, I think they're good anyway. John says, I've seen a photo they posted of the plane's cockpit they raced the aircraft on. Very cool. And he says that Red Bull DC-6 did the flight pass at the Grand Prix yesterday. Oh, I didn't see that. I didn't see that part of it. I swapped straight to the actual Grand Prix, I must admit. Tyler says, oh, nice, I used to live in Yellowknife. Excellent. Yeah, Yellowknife does seem quite nice. The place in the show that, and I'm sure it's a lovely place, but it seems like if you're joining Buffalo and you want to get flying, the rampedes who got stuck at Hay River seem to have a bit of a tougher time. Mainly when you don't have your own place to live, that's always tough. Yeah. Variation should show on the compass deviation figures. How do you mean? Brianni says, as long as you don't Innsbruck this, you'll do great. Oh, Brianni. You still remember that? I've long since pretended to forget about that. Louis says steep approach in the DC-6, disaster guaranteed. Well, if I'm visual, we might not do a steeper approach. Yeah. Zephyr says deviation is 20 degrees east on the 10-9 chart. Thanks, Zephyr. 20 degrees variation, that's massive. In the UK at the moment, it's about 1 degree. The magnetic North Pole, however, is moving around, so it does vary. So variation east, magnetic least. So although I'm flying 270, so variation is to the east, which means my magnetic heading is the least compared to my true. So I'm flying 270, but there's 20 degrees of easterly variation. So variation east, magnetic least. So this is my magnetic heading. This is the least. It's 270 because it's slaved normal. I wonder what happens if you put it direct gyro. I won't find out now. You can just spin it however you want. So if I had 20 degrees, 27, I'm actually flying 290. True. Now the GPS will actually tell us that. Well, that's magnetic, so that's not what I want. There is a way. Track 271 magnetic, yeah, we know that. There is a way to make this show you your true track. Track 271, yeah, direct track. No, that's not what I want. Oh, it's going to be in the menu. Change fields, let's try. Do we have desired track distance? Ground track. Track angle error. Should we give it a go? Ground track. Enter. No, it's just showing us a track of the ground in magnetic. Where's the true track? In the Boeings, there's that little switch, and you just flick that switch, and it goes from magnetic to true. Very easy. Thanks to Ricky and Christopher for subscribing. I hope you enjoy it. Dougal, no problem. Thanks very much. We'll see you next time, Dougal. Sorry it's taken a bit longer than I thought. I must confess. We're getting there though. Last 80 miles to go. Salakin says, just managed to get free and join you. If you're aiming at a VOR, can you give us a quick glance at the bottom left distance and predicted time? Yeah, absolutely. 21 minutes, 87 miles to go, 255 knots. We've picked up a bit since I swung that wind around to be a tailwind. Magically that's helped us. Descent wise, we're going to do roughly 3 degrees. I'm sure you can descend this airplane quite quickly if you need to with those big propellers. Ed says don't mention Innsbruck. I mentioned it once, so I think I got away with it. That was says the DC-6 ain't a sprinter. No, it's not indeed. I'm getting hungry now. Cobus says, obviously you have to do A320 vids, but I love this basic flying in a historic aircraft. Yeah, me too. Me too, Cobus. Thanks. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I've got some 320 vids coming soon. But yeah, this is great fun for me. I just annoyed about this. No. Oh well. Let's hold clear. We'll go back to the nav page and zoom out. This reckon's 82 miles. We can change. We should be able to change these fields as well. Anyway, saying the same thing, 81 miles. John says, watch PMDG's tutorials, they're really helpful. My landings have improved, but they're not butter yet. Yeah, I watched the first half, and I haven't got around to watching most of the second half ones. Bobby Fuzzy says, hey, hope you're well, loving the DC-6. Thanks, Bobby Fuzzy. I am very well. I hope you're well as well. And thanks for coming along. Dr. Magic says, good evening. This plane is epic. I haven't landed successfully yet. Yeah. Landing, as far as I can tell, involves not doing too much. Fly it down. Don't idle the engines until you're on the ground, which is common with propeller aeroplanes, especially 4 propellers like this. And don't flare too much either, because it is very pitch sensitive. So I'm going to try and do those things, but who knows? Who knows? Excuses are, it's a DC-6. It's going to be a steep approach. It's a short runway. Some other things like that, I would imagine. So we've got plenty of excuses for today, for sure. It's propellers cause drag when you haven't got power added to them. By the way, this effect that PMDG did, it absolutely. I don't know if this is their work or whether it's typical in Flight Simulator. I haven't noticed it looking this good. But the side-on view of the propellers, you can see actually how coarse they are. So if they were fully coarse, this would be even thicker. This sort of side-on view, because it means it's like I say, a high gear. It's pushing more air back. But yeah, so when you take power off, they provide a lot of drag because the airflow, instead of the propeller pushing the air back, it becomes like a windmill, like a turbine. So like a big wind turbine you see out in the sea, generating electricity. So what you get is the wind is coming from here, and then that airflow is hitting this sort of wing that is the propeller, because they're little wings basically, aren't they? Hits that and pushes it round, and that turns the engine over, and that gives us a lot of drag because it's turning the engine around. Yeah. Love the orange wingtips on this livery. I didn't know Buffalo had that. It is making some serious tracks though. Again, makes you appreciate how long those days out for the ice pilots were, or are. Connor says, we were always taught Cadbury Dairy Milk very tasty for remembering variation deviation. Compass plus deviation, magnetic plus variation equals true. Might be the only part of ground school I can remember. Very good, Connor. Well done on remembering it. Yeah, I really struggled with the magnetic west bit there. Yeah, Brianna's going to keep mentioning Innsbruck until I do the PADI exams. Yeah. Jenny says, have you ever seen EGTS electric taxiing in action? Do you think it's viable? Are you talking about taxiing? I haven't seen in action, no. No, pushbacks, yes. Lots of electric pushbacks now around the world. But electric taxiing? Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, if electric taxiing has made it to a trial point, then the chances are it's going to get adopted, because even if they find a problem with it, they'll just fix that problem, because so much money would have been spent developing and certifying it up to this point. It'd be daft to give up on it. Usually that's what happens anyway, so I suspect we'll see it. It makes sense. But again, only for busy airports. We might see it more in places like America, where you get those long queues, and the busier airports in Europe. But in the smaller airports, obviously, there's no point. Selakin says, thanks. Watching another streamer the other day. Distance and time were obviously wrong with the speed, but he was using a pre-release version. Yeah, nope, seems absolutely fine. It did initially show 600 knots or something, just as we swapped over. But it would do. It takes time to work it out. Tom says, remember you have gear props, so you can't let the wind rotate the props. Exactly. Yeah. Cobus says, what a BMEP in your words. I wish I knew. I really don't know. What's the unit? Pounds per square inch. So it's a pressure reading. So piston engines often are run on manifold pressure and RPM. Very common. If you don't have a fancy airplane, it could just be done on RPM. But if you've got an airplane with adjustable propeller, it's usually manifold pressure and RPM. You need both because you can't just do the RPM if you can adjust it. But on a really simple plane like a Cessna 152 with a fixed pitch propeller that you can't adjust, then it'll just be RPM. So these are the normal ones, which is a bit like in a jet engine having N1 and N2. You've always got them. But they seem to have added in this BMEP, which is like having EPR on some jet engines. And it's another way of reading the engines. Whether it's better or not, only the pilots who've flown it can tell. Phil Norbeck, thanks so much for your $20 donation. Really appreciate it, Phil. Phil says, settled on the 757 V2 Pro modern avionics for X-Plane. I missed your stream to Figari and will recreate it this evening if I can get this off the ground. Dugan Matevich, I'll heavily suggest a DC-6 for my anniversary gift. There you go, Phil. Enjoy that. That's 757. The VMAX 757 is super. I only have the very basic one, so I haven't tried out the modern avionics, but it's super, super, super. Really nice. So you'll enjoy that. I love the 757. But thanks so much for that donation. Really appreciate it, Phil. Really kind of you. And yeah, thank you for donating towards the channel. It's incredibly generous. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, don't know what to say. You've so many of you have been so generous again today. If you are watching and enjoying, do please hit the like button. It makes a massive difference to the channel and the reception of the videos and whether the videos get recommended and so on. And I know it's not all about that, but it does help us out when we have people coming along and enjoying the videos. So yeah, thank you so much, and I can see some of you doing it now, so thank you to those of you who just hit the like button. Really appreciate it. That's very kind. It's amazing running these streams when you can see this stuff live like this. It's 179. Can we reach 180? 184? Thank you. Excellent, guys. Really appreciate it. A nice place to finish a stream. It's always fun when we finish a stream with more likes than we have viewers. I'm always impressed with that. I don't know whether that's a good thing or whether it just means everybody's left because they got bored. But yeah, thank you again, Phil, for that donation, and enjoy that 757. Really appreciate it. Alexander Galfano says, I tried to fly in the UK using BAW, which is British Airways, but I think they were making fun of me because of my Californian accent. Don't worry, Alexander. It depends on the airport you were in as well. Some of the airports are a bit more fussy than others like that, or I've certainly been in trouble at airports, so don't worry about that. You're absolutely allowed to fly around as a Speedbird, even with a Californian accent, because I fly around as every airline under the sun with my UK accent. Dana J says, need to check out this Ice Pilot show. Sounds interesting from all this talk. Yeah, it's great. It's on well, in the UK. I don't want to advertise it as in I'll advertise, you know, I like talking about the show, but it's on Amazon Prime in the UK if you happen to have that. Andy says, did you watch Mikey McBride's YouTube series, Plane Savers, where they boarded their early DC-3 and got it flying for the 75th anniversary of D-Day? No, I didn't. I'll have to look that up. Thanks, Andy. Russell says, brake mean effective pressure for BMEP. Brake mean? What does that mean? I still don't know what it means, but thank you, Russell. That's a good that we got that information. So it is a pressure reading, which makes sense. Senior Super says, if you taxi electric, wouldn't you need to warm up your engines before takeoff? So jet engines, piston engines, yes. Oil and everything needs to be warm, needs to be flowing freely around the engines. Jet engines, once they need to be, first flight of the day, usually they need a few minutes. But I'm talking a few minutes, even if that's an idle thrust. There's not many that need a long actual warm-up once they're on. So 5 minutes is the most I've ever heard of in jet aircraft. So you get your 5 minutes warm-up. I'm not too impressed with this scenery popping in and out. I don't know if that's because we're just low enough that it's loading up the 3D stuff, but we're not low enough where, you know, we're high enough that we can actually see past it. I don't know what's going on there. A little surprised. Anyway, going back to what you asked. Yes, we need some level of warm-up, but it's somewhere between 2 to 5 minutes, and that's it, after the second engine started. So, as you can imagine, that means it's quite straightforward to it's quite quick to get an airplane in the air, especially if it's already been flown that day. It's crazy. We don't even do engine run-ups on jet aircraft. They're considered reliable enough, they have enough systems monitoring them, that it makes no difference doing a run-up. There are some occasions where you might ice and so on, but yeah. Granny says, of course you have to be in trouble sometimes. Can remember some instances. Yeah, I've been in trouble with the traffic plenty of times. Yeah. There you go. Andy uses Spirit Wings and Cactus in the US all the time. Excellent. The only Millhouse says, are the 2 dislikes the 2 jets that had to sit behind you on takeoff? Yeah, maybe. In fact, 201 likes. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate it. That's very kind. Great news. Russell says, it's a more accurate display of engine power, allowing for altitude turbos, alcohol injection. Right, okay. So that clearly means that although I'm running at the basic level here with RPM and manifold pressure, this airplane is more advanced. So we have things like the injection, we have the superchargers. What happens if I just turn on a supercharger? No, it's on low already. So yeah, maybe we could run it to high. So maybe that's what this is used for then. Thanks, Russell. Appreciate it. Thanks again to Phil for that $22 donation. Really, really kind. Mickey says, even though I don't like any other airplane than Airbus, I still watch you, Captain. Thank you, Mickey. Appreciate it. I apologise. There are Airbus videos coming. It's just been a crazy sort of few weeks with other stuff going on. It's quite strange. Sometimes we get these periods, but we'll be back in next plane. We will fly the Toliss soon. Don't worry. Victor Tango, hope your dinner was good. I'm still looking forward to mine. Alexander says, KLAX needs you to stream there. That's a long way. We haven't got any airplanes near KLAX, but it is definitely coming. Got to get there. Danny says, ever heard my Dutch accent? I can't get any worse. Ever heard Louis Van Gaal talking English when he was the trainer of Manchester United? Santiago Perez, sorry if I didn't say hi, but yeah, thanks for coming along. Glad to hear it, Victor Tango. Simon has a German accent on Vatsin, excellent. In Germany, you're more or less encouraged to speak with a heavy accent because it matches the guidelines, like tree instead of 3. Yeah. Yeah, those phonetic, you're talking properly phonetically does make a difference. Lauren B says, I'd love to see the classic Delta widget livery on the 757 in the US sometime. Still yet to visit United States proper on the channel. No, I know. We've managed to do Canada. Next I'll do Mexico. Oh, apparently Ice Pilots have been removed from Amazon Prime, says Mike. That's a shame. That is a shame. Oh, well, I'm not sure where it's available then. Maybe it's coming to Netflix or something. It would be nice, wouldn't it? Ed, thanks so much, Ed, for your $4.99 donation. Really appreciate it. Ed says, thanks for live streaming the DC-6. Going to be flying this a lot. And as always, I've learnt lots and enjoyed the chat. Thanks again. You're very welcome, Ed. Thanks for coming along. And thanks for that very generous donation. Really kind. I hope you're doing very well. And thanks for coming along. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah. I'm just nattering now, and I do need to think about this approach. But thanks so much, Ed. Right, we've got 24 miles, so we're really close. We should be ready for the approach almost. So let's do descent.
26 inches, please. Setting 26 inches.
Power's going to be reduced. So I'm going to turn off altitude control because I want it to descend. Maybe we're going to do a little flyby. That hasn't worked. Why has that not worked? Let's turn off the gyro pilot. There's the bell. Just going to do that again.
26 inches, please. Setting 26 inches.
What have I done? What have I done? Have I turned on too many things? Let's turn all that off. Those wings were sitting nice and hot. Whatever this is, the wing heater's at over 100 degrees. Oh, sorry.
26 inches, please.
I seem to have lost control of the engines. Throttle lock. Have I engaged the throttle lock? Gas lock's disengaged. Where's the throttle lock? I did hear something clicking earlier. So I know that does some throttle interlock. Is there another switch I've pressed? Right at the throttles. Ah. Thank you very much. Right. Excellent. Ah, it's fantastic flying with you guys. It makes such a difference. So Norman Wells is going to be passing underneath us very soon. So we're going to fly that arc in from the other side.
Altimeters and flight instruments cross-checked.
So,
Seatbelt signs on.
we'll leave the autopilot off now.
Engine blow.
Thanks for the help with that.
Blow.
This is the current date, but I've added snow to the weather. Top percent is 5 miles per 1,000 feet. So according to my not very good calcs, we should descend to about 70 miles away from the airport. Oh, I didn't realise. That's very shallow descent. It's because you don't idle this aeroplane. So our ground speed is 250. RPM's gone up a bit, which will give us more drag. So ground speed is 250. So a 3-degree descent is going to be about 1,300 feet per minute. And we're only doing 500s. Unbelievable. It's going to take us forever to descend. So the airport is going to be right beneath us. There it is. So how are we going to do this? So the big thing PMDG talk about in their tutorials is that it's all about not making large power changes, because if you do, the engines don't like it. If I was to just idle those engines, we could shock cool them effectively. They've been running at this nice warm temperature. If you bring that back, you just cause a mess. I see he's also put all the cows in the right place. I wonder why that. I wonder how I've hit that throttle lock, because I've done that before and not worked out what's going on. So I've got some options. We could go down a bit faster. And to do that, I could just increase the speed. I could just trim it nose down. Autopilot is off. So let's do it. Let's pick it up a bit. Get more drag out of the airplane. I wonder if this could have the same effect. This could overcool those engines. We'll find out. Can't go above this marker, which was that, about 300, 310. AC455, good to see you. Thanks for coming along. Yeah, no snow in Canada. Massive heat wave right now. 45 in one place. Goodness me. Yeah, that is cold. Jenny says, normally you would have different pressure on your piston place due to the cycle of an engine, and BMEP is just the average pressure on your piston. Ah, there you go. Very good. Ollie Nat says, I'm going to go now. Just landed and parked up. Hope you have a great rest of the flight. Thanks, Ollie. Thanks for flying along. Simon C says, yes, in a jet you have the rule of thumb with the altitude times 3, and a DC-6 is more like altitude times 5. It's funny, I in my head, you know, the only propeller aeroplane I've flown, it was really easy to get a steep descent out of it. Here we go, we're passing right overhead. Norman Wells. So it looks clear. Nice long runway. We'll pretend we meant to do this. There's that big ridge of terrain off to the right, so we're visual with that. Just check out my chart. So I'm going to head south now, and then we'll come in from the south on a 15-mile arc. That's the plan. And we can descend down to 3,600 feet to the south. Nervous Ned for the flight engineer system intervention. Yeah, it could be. Rakon says your flight engineer just got nervous. Yeah. The flight engineer will now have to fix my issues and sort out my temperatures, because this is how I want to fly. So I'm going to head south, get out to a 15-mile range, and then fly that sort of arc background. And in the inbound course 099 for the easterly runway, so I'm going to set that on here. The bigger problem I'm having is just making sure that I'm actually heading south, you know, and not, because that's all magnetic. It's yeah, it's really quite strange flying on this. So we are heading south. Seems to be working, even though actually we're not heading south. This is going to be, so 180, but actually it's probably, yeah, 20 degrees to the right of that. So we're actually going about 200. Right, let's make sure we're on QNH, which we are. It's funny how it sort of bobbles around. Yeah, it's my fault. decals are closed now, keeping those engines warm. Oh, no, leave that on M1. 5.7 miles away. So, yeah, we'll do this out to 10. Sorry, out to 15, and then we'll do our right turn. It's not a new mouse, Pavel. No, I am having some scrolling issues. I must confess. Yeah, sadly not. Solikin says circle. We'll do the arc. Action says run out of fuel. Descending on long and rapid descent should occur immediately after. Belari says, how do you fly this since it's got no GPS? VOR to VOR? What about SIDS and stars? Yeah, you can do VOR to VOR. SIDS and stars can fly with an NDB and VORs. It can be done with radio navigate in some airports. Some of them need RNAV, and then you do have a GPS up here. If you need it, you can slave the GPS and Vorlock up here like normal. So that has been sort of retrofitted. There's 6,000 feet at 8 miles. That's good. We're a bit fast. So the next one is going to be the in-range checklist. And remember, we are leveling off at, just to show you the charts. It's going to get really busy now, guys, so I do apologise if I missed the chat. We're going to level off at 2,600 feet. I'm not going to show you that chart again, so you can't tell me I'm doing it wrong. That's the current plan. The problem we've got here is we are really fast. And I just don't know how to slow this thing down anymore. I could just take more power off. Or, as I'm visual with the terrain, there is some serious terrain over there, though. Goodness me, you don't want to go too far away from where you're supposed to be here, do you? Right, let's start our right turn then. Coming up to 12 miles, so gentle right turn. Going to level off and slow down. The bungee cords, yeah, this is holding the standby compass, or the, I suppose not standby, the compass in place in this airplane. Why they're bungee corded, I don't know. It could be to make sure there's no magnetic issues. It could be to help it, because it could be shaken around by vibration or variance. I really don't know. I haven't seen that before. Interesting design, isn't it? That's the rudder trim wheel up there for an engine failure, which is also an interesting place to put it. Right, so now let's fly to 20. Keep descending. Let's run the... Do we want to do in-range checklist yet, or will it put the flap out, which I had before? So 220, 15.8. No, we're going wide, so now I need to come right. Let's go 240. We've gone way wide. Just going to need to cut in more, actually. It's 4,000 feet. We're still pretty high. Ooh, is this going to work out? Storming into Norman Wells. Should be okay, actually. Yeah, no, we're plenty low now. It's just gone really wide. I totally misjudged that because we're going so fast. So let's keep the turn going. Let's get that speed back. Don't climb, please. Leveling at 2,600. That's what I need to remember. Now, there's definitely no way to make this fly a VOR arc. Still getting wider. It's just we're screaming along. We're doing 230 knots. Yeah, almost 240. Way too fast. This procedure's probably, normally these are limited. Just enjoy some of the scenery. There we go. It's finally coming in a little bit. So that's 3,500. So let's keep it coming down. Start getting that speed back. We'll do 3,000 feet initially. Roughly, well, let's do this heading for a little bit. Yeah, this is not a good DME arc. Definitely not. No problem, Tango? Yeah, high vibration for the compass. That's what we all think, yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I suddenly wanted terrain overlay on the PFD. Yeah, me too. I can't believe those hills out there. They were really something. Please don't climb. So speeds come right back now. Look at that. Okay, let's get back to 200. We're about to reach 15 miles on the arc again, having gone so wide. So what you need to do is you need to make it like a hexagon or whatever, or 50 pence piece. Lots of little straight edges when you're flying an arc, but not like this. It's an atrocious entry, so now I'm going to really struggle to figure out how to get back to it. Well, actually, the arc says 3.6. No, it's 2.6 after Pemler. Right, we're staying here. We're not going any lower. That's still counting down and in, so let's go left a little bit. Let's keep slowing down. It's good. We can keep ourselves level, hopefully. .5, 40.4, still counting down, so we're definitely cutting in too tight. There's 200 knots. It just doesn't slow down. Amazing. It's so hard to see that DME as well. 40.4, come on. That's going to start going up in a second, I'm sure. 40.5, there we go. Right, we're below 200 knots. This is starting to become a bit more controllable. Take out the AFE and manually set to BMEP to 70 to slow down. Could do, yeah. We're looking for an inbound course of 099. Currently it's on about 062. So let's come right now. Let's go to 330. Keeping ourselves at 3000. We are visual. That 3.6 would explain. And there we go. Norman Wells is just over there. Interesting ice configurations coming up. So 333, 40.9. Cool. The in range, do you reckon? Okay, in range it is. Let's hope it doesn't put out those flaps.
Normal. Fuel booster pumps. On low. Fuel tank selectors. Mains on, cross feed off. Hydraulic bypass valve. Down. No smoking signs. On. In range checks complete.
Okay, so in range we can do, no problem. Yeah, we're gonna have to do this. Sorry, engineer, I'm gonna mess up your engines a little bit. I'm just gonna bring that power back. That's interesting that I'm getting such different BMEP readings. Anyway, not focusing on that. Let's keep flying, down at 2.7. So we'll just say we're going down to our platform with 2.6 a bit early on the basis that we're visual. Still 14.8 on the DME, and the inbound is coming up to the 099, so we can start turning right now, I think, and start pointing in towards Norman Wells. But let's not descend. So we'll stay at 2.6. Good, quite a strong wind from the right there. Just won't slow down. 190 knots, incredible. Incredible. So once we're within 15 miles inbound, which we are, we can stay at 2.6, so we're safe here. That's fine. Just trying to get that to 099. Could try this with the autopilot, but I somehow feel like that'll be more difficult. Never done so much hand flying on this channel. They suggest taking manual control and keeping it at 62 to 70. Okay, yeah. Makes sense, really. That's okay, we're trying to cut in onto our inbounds. My engine 1 just sits so much lower. You can see those different RPMs there. I don't really understand why that happens. Right, I think I'm just going to run the landing checklist. Before landing, sorry. So some flaps coming out. Oh, we should have looked at the approach. Yikes.
20 flaps set. Mistress Ridge, please. Auto Ridge.
Okay.
Mistress
Whoops. That was not a good time to look away. Right, about 135. Okay, let's get ourselves down 1600 feet towards Norman. Just coming in on that VOR. So it's complaining because it wants the gear down. So we'll put that should be in transit now. Coming down to 1600.
2400 RPM. 2400 RPM set. Cow flaps.
A little bit early to be coming down actually to 1600, but there we go. So that's 099. It must be a true... No, it's not. No, it's magnetic. Okay, so this should work out. So we'll keep doing this. There you go, speech checks. They're doing the landing lights. Nearly down to 1600s. And this is why I ended up landing with 20 degrees of flap in my preview video, because you get this situation where it flies just fine. I'm basically at V-approach 130-ish, and let's head over to that VOR. Can't see out the window very well, and it seems to have no trouble. It's quite happy. It's really bizarre. Anyway, we won't put full flap out, of course, until we're pointing or descending on that approach. I really thought I'd see the runway a little bit more easily by now. Still, we're going to be on that radial at least. There's some success. There's 099. Yeah, I can't believe how out of trim it was. And there's the runway. That was the other thing. So watching ice pilots, it's incredible how hard it is to spot the runways. Like they show it in the show, and they show them having to circle around and figure it out themselves, and I can see why. It's a complete nightmare trying to find them sometimes. In fact, I think that's a satellite image on the left. Looks like there's one there. I mean, the pappies are just impossible to see. It's incredible. We're not going to worry about the perfect 3-degree descent. But we should be descending from 1600 feet at 60, which is what we're about to reach. A little bit high. I can't see the runway properly. That's my excuse. Before 1,000 feet, it counts. Right at 60. So let's go full flap. A bit fast for that, actually. Get the power back. And it's a steep approach, remember? So yeah, so this is the problem I'm having, which is, although I've got them on the same thrust levers, my engines aren't syncing up very well, and I don't know why. So thrust lever 1 does engine 1 and 2, but they don't synchronize at all. They're quite far off each other. Very strange. DC-6 is the excuse, exactly. Alright, we're getting slow now. All that flap out. As far as I can tell, there's no stall warner in this airplane. It's very much a case of you'll feel it. See, even 120 knots, it feels fast to me. I mean, I got such a nose down, but I suppose that's how it flies the approach. Oh, I didn't start the replay. That's my fault. Let's see if I can get that done in time while flying. Go very wrong. Okay, got the replay running. Back at 130 knots. So we're on the right speed. Looks a bit high. So, not going to bring the power to idle. Just going to reduce it slightly. Coming in fast now. 140 is too fast. So into the flare, power's back, and just going to hold it here, reducing the power not to idle. There's touchdown. Bit of a bounce. Hold it there. And I think we've made it. That possibly a bit of a wheelbarrow there. Let's get on those brakes, because this is not a long runway. This is a heavy plane. Right. Yeah, you do not want to be as fast as that. Goodness me, what an approach. That is I'm sure that was a wheelbarrow. What I mean by wheelbarrow is that nose wheel, I can't believe it didn't touch down first. So let's see if we can do a bit of a backtrack. We used all of that runway. 10 knots too fast, that's the difference. Sure, we could have got that in at 120 knots. It feels like it'd be fine, but there must be a reason for those speeds. And lesson for me about the snow, yeah, I've made my life difficult there with the snow. Yeah, it was really, really hard to see the runway the whole time. Oh well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I did. That was great fun, and I've learnt loads about the DC-6 from you guys. So I need to fly it, hopefully not too long, otherwise I'll forget everything. Let's bring those flaps in now. So just bring that yellow lever up, and there we go. We did all the checklists. We got all the flap out, so that's good. We did before landing, so let's do after landing, and just tell them to do it. Was it 33? Was it? Goodness me! But that again, that was not a technically good landing. There's no doubt about it. That was, and there's a bit of a bounce or float, or maybe one of the wings tried to rise. We'll find out. But look how much runway we used. Yeah. I wonder. I'm assuming Microsoft Flight Simulator simulates the ice then, because it didn't slow down much at all. And the other problem is I didn't get to the reverses in time. If it had been a bit of a better landing, the reverses I would have gone for, which is you pull this down and then you just rev up the engines and they're in reverse mode. But I was busy trying to keep the airplane straight on the runway. It was definitely sliding around a bit more than I was used to. And he says, this approach is so much easier at 90 knots in a DC-3. Yeah, I can believe it. If it doesn't have fly-by-wire, I ain't flying it. Yeah, fair enough. So, that's you guys. Right, I'm apologising. I've missed a few things, missed a few subscriptions there at the end. So thank you all for your subscriptions. And I really appreciate it. I did get the replay going, so replay is going to be coming very soon. Let's just go and park up. But we'll leave the airplane running. You can shut it down. It's very straightforward. It just turns off. The engines stop. So if you guys would like the replay, I'll leave it running because I think that's going to be better. In fact, I'll put the flaps back out as well. We'll park up next to our propeller-powered friends over here, who seem to have really taken over the apron. Right, flaps travelling down. Plane is perfect. Sitting there, yeah, it's glorious. See those cows are open. So I'm going to stop recording and let's see if the replay worked. And also disconnection from VATSIM. Right, here we go then. So a lot of power needed. So the reason I think the 20 degrees of flaps and 40 feel the same is because this is a lot of drag. I don't know how much extra lift that gives you, but look at that nose down attitude. Someone got an Airbus in there. Yeah, oh, the Airbus would stop better than this. Yeah, no problem. Auto brakes, reverse thrust straight away. But a better pilot would have done a better job. Look at that, trying to get the nose up, trying to get the nose up. Yeah, and that's why it gets so twitchy. Just too fast. I'm not convinced. I must have read that approach speed wrong, because that's just too fast. Plus, I was above the approach speed I had anyway. You can see why stable approach criteria is so important. Look at that rudder. Just trying to keep it straight and on the runway. But we made it. We got a DC-6 into an ice covered runway. We dealt with the VOR, the magnetic variation, all the other things we probably didn't do right. Pavel says, assign the water rudder to a button and you'll have reverse thrust on that button. Thank you very much. That is a great tip, and that would really help. I'm sure I had the water rudder assigned somewhere anyway. Thanks, Ed. Glad you enjoyed it. No bounce. Only one landing rate was recorded. Okay, bit of a skip along. But yeah, clean the runway. Yeah. Right. What I'll do then is I'll pause that. Put it back here. It might not have enough video for the music, so we'll find out. Let's give you a nice wing view. And I'm going to say to you guys, thank you all so much for coming along. I really, really appreciate it. Really enjoyed it today, of course. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you for taking the time out to come along and watch. Thank you for those who've generously donated. Really appreciate it. Thanks to the moderators for looking after us, of course. Thank you to all of you watching along, all of you commenting, and those of you watching along at home, even if you haven't said anything. I really appreciate it. If you did enjoy it, do please leave a like on the way out. And now we'll have some outro music. And yeah, you can watch the landing. It looks a lot better from the inside, I suspect, this landing. Again, very technically, a very not good landing technically, but still, the -33. We'll take our small victories when we can. So we'll see you again in another live stream or video soon, and thank you all for watching. Really appreciate it. Thank you, and have a very lovely day or evening wherever you are, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye.